All right. What is going on, everybody? This is Rand Thor 19, the man with the million, and we are back on a Friday with another episode, I think like 210, 207, something like that, of the Xbox 2 podcast. And with me, as always, is the one, the only, Jez Corden of Windows Central. What's going on, man?
Hey man, how's it going, everybody? And yes, we're back with another show. Have you had a good week, Rand? How have you been, pal?
I mean, I've been doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. It's been about a month since I made my last video, but there isn't anything really interesting to talk about, so I really haven't felt pressured into making anything. It's not that I don't want to make anything, it's just that it's very much nothing going on right now, which is weird or odd compared to last year, because if you remember last year, around this time, we had the Microsoft Xbox Bethesda Roundtable. We had Outriders coming to Game Pass. You had the announcement out of nowhere that MLB The Show was coming, not only the Xbox, but Game Pass on day one. Like, Xbox was out there last year at this point in time, and they've been abnormally quiet right now. So there isn't really anything that interests me too much, so I really haven't made anything, but I mean, maybe that'll change soon. I know you're writing a lot of articles, mainly about Elden Ring, because that's what everybody seems to care about in the video game world, right?
Yeah, man, Elden Ring has been absolutely wild for Windows Central's traffic, I'll put it that way. I actually was told by our SEO team that Windows Central was the number one destination for Elden Ring in the English-speaking world, which was, a testament to the hard work of the team and stuff like that. But I mean, thank God we had Elden Ring to write about, because otherwise, yeah, like you say, there's not been a huge amount of Xbox news at the minute. But increasingly, I'm wondering if World Events has altered their marketing trajectory at the moment in the world, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. But I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see.
Wait and see, indeed. But, Jez, before we get started, we get people to hop in here. I think we already have like 500 people already here, which is amazing. It's great to be back on a Friday, because I believe tomorrow I'm a guest on Go Live with Gaz. So I'll be on Gaz's show tomorrow, I think. So that's fun.
Gaz is a cool dude.
Yeah, I always like doing Gaz's show. And our buddies over at Xbox Era, Special Nick, as well as Sicko Mechanical John. And I always give Nick shit about stuff, but Nick's my guy, right? We joke around, we rib each other, but Nick's my dude. They have their 100th episode tomorrow, which is a good milestone, nice milestone. And they are, I guess Phil Spencer, the head of Xbox, is dropping by to give them congrats, which is pretty big thing. So make sure you guys, if you're interested, check out Xbox Era tomorrow. John and Nick are putting on building a really good community over there. So it's really, really cool to see. And even though if I will constantly just kind of go back and forth with Nick about stuff, which I just love doing. But this podcast
doesn't tell us what the shrimp means.
Yeah, this podcast, though, however, this week is powered once again, Jez, by what and by who?
Could it be Manscaped?
That's right. Manscaped is once again sponsoring the Xbox 2 podcast. And, if you look outside, it's actually been pretty nice recently. Like last week it was like 70 degrees. And all of a sudden, last night it started snowing, and we got a couple inches of snow here, and it was 35 degrees. It's like, how does it go from 70 degrees, and like 4 days later, it's like snowing again? So apparently, spring is upon us, but you wouldn't know that sometimes by looking out the window on March 11th. So what better way to celebrate the end of winter with a little bit of spring cleaning, both outside and inside your underwear? Well, unbelievable. Manscaped gives you the best tools to spruce up your family jewels. And with our code XB2, you can grab 20% off and free shipping on everything at manscaped.com, which you can get boxers, razors, shavers, deodorant, colognes, and so much more. Start spring with a fresh mind, and more importantly, some fresh balls with Manscaped and use our checkout code XB2 to get 20% off with free shipping. I know you out of all the things, because you have the products and you use them. Out of all the things you really talk about, you love those boxers, huh?
Yeah, I do. I love the boxes, but I actually used the lawnmower 4.0 yesterday, Rand.
Oh,
I actually thought, you know what? It's spring, spring cleaning. It's time to spruce them up a little bit. So yeah, I was rocking the lawnmower yesterday. I love how they're all named after gardening tools, all their products. I suppose because it's manly, right? You're whacking those weeds and cutting those crops and all that stuff. So yeah, Manscaped. Checkout code XB2. Thanks to Manscaped and everybody else who supports the window. I was going to say the Windows Central.
The Windows Central's podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. The Xbox 2 podcast with checkout code XB2 on manscaped.com.
Yeah, so we got a couple super chats I wanted to read. We got one from Achievement that says, "Staying late at work and can't catch you all live. Have a great show, guys." Man, sucks that you can't watch it live, but you can always check it out later. It'll be up here on my YouTube channel. And Jez will be having it up, on your podcast apps, iTunes, Spotify, all those places. Pretty much probably tomorrow, maybe tomorrow morning. We get it up pretty quickly. Do you remember when we used to not put the episodes up on demand on podcasts? Like, I think it was like the first 50 episodes or something.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know why. I think it's just because I didn't expect to get such a following, I guess.
I guess, yeah.
You guys asked, and we delivered.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I listen to my podcast on YouTube. So that's where I normally listen to stuff, but I know a lot of people listen elsewhere. 7, he says, just coming by to make sure there's no Legend of Korra slander this time around, which is funny because I'm assuming you're the same person who DM'd me, and he's like, Rand, please, there are some of us out there who are fans of the Legend of Korra game, because every single time we talk about Platinum and the great games they've made, I've always mentioned they're bad games, and I always say Legend of Korra because I actually played that game and I remember it. But he's just like, there are dozens of us that like this game, so don't mention it. And don't. I don't want to hear any more Legend of Korra slander. I'm like, okay. So,
I never played that.
Yeah, well, I promised I wouldn't slander it anymore, so I'll just move on. Shout out to the one and only Sean LeBrie who's in the chat, who did the excellent intro for the show. I really like that intro, and did we give Sean any direction for that? He just created that out of the ether of his mind, huh?
Yeah, there was no direction. He just magicked it into existence.
It's just crazy. This is really crazy. Sin Vendetta says, "Hey Rand and Jez, hope you're both well. I've been going through a pretty rough patch right now. That sucks. Hope you're doing good. My DMs are open if you need to talk about anything. So it's great to have the Xbox 2 to take my mind off things. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the support, Sin. So I think this will probably be the last time I'll specifically talk about Elden Ring, and it'll be quick, because I know probably people are bored about, don't want to hear it anymore, but I'm at the end of the game. I'm at the end. I'm literally right before the final boss. I have roughly 70 hours in the game. I have all the achievements except for beating the final boss, the three endings, and the platinum achievement. So I'm essentially at the end. I'll have the 1,000 tonight. Clearly, I really adore the game. Right now, it's my game of the year. It's going to be really tough for any other game to pass it. However, is it a perfect game? Well, no, it's not perfect, right? But a 10 out of 10, not a perfect game. It can just be a masterpiece. I will say...
No game's really perfect.
I will say, the more you play the game, the bigger the flaws that Elden Ring has starts to appear. The catacombs and the dungeons and the mines all start to kind of run the same, essentially, right? They look the same. And then From Software starts to just reuse the same bosses. And then they sometimes will then use the same bosses, they'll just oh, you fought this boss again, but now he's got a spear instead of a hammer. okay, now you fight fight this boss and this boss at the same time. So then they start reusing bosses and doubling up bosses. So it kind of feels like they sort of ran out of gas. And honestly, I felt there. So like the way the game's situated, way the story gets, you kind of make your way to the capital, right? The capital city, and that is where the game peaks. And I sort of feel like after the capital city, the game sort of falls. The game sort of like kind of declines in quality a little bit. It felt like the capital was sort of like the end, like the right ending point for it with everything, because that area is just incredible. But then the next area of the game just was like, this isn't as good as all the other stuff. I think they kind of stretched the game out with more content than they originally planned, and it started to kind of make itself known. But I will say one of the biggest things I enjoy about the game is, and I kind of remember when Bungie talked about the original Destiny reveal, right, about this. When they showed it off and they're like, "Oh, you see that mountain? You can go there," right? That was, and people were like, "What? You can go there, right?" But you really couldn't. You couldn't go there. The thing with Elden Ring is, like, if you see something like there's a structure in the distance, super high up, or just whatever, like, you literally can go there, and there's going to be a level that is like expertly crafted there. It's insane how everything is interconnected and how everything's built, right? Like, nothing is wasted. So when you're riding your horse and you look in this distance and you see this insane castle, like, that is a place you can actually go and explore, right? When you're like down below in the internal city and there's like a coliseum off in the distance that's glowing red, it's not just there to look pretty. You actually can go to that coliseum. Like, I don't think any other game out there does that sort of level design and interconnectivity. I don't think anybody does that better than From Software. Period.
Yeah. Like, even though, like, I was playing Dark Souls for the first time, like, completed it for the first time just a few months ago, even though it's 10 years old, I was still blown away by how interconnected Dark Souls is. Like, I was like, oh my god, where's this going to lead me? Like, and then it was like, oh, hang on, it's giving me a shortcut back all the way here, and you just wouldn't have thought about it. Like, but it's funny because similar to what you said about when you get to the capital, it feels like the game drops off a bit. A lot of people say that about Dark Souls as well. Like, you get to Anor Londo, like the capital city, and then the next few areas don't feel as, I don't know, as loved or whatever. So maybe they did bite off more than they could chew, and then, you know, try and hit deadlines or whatever, and just think, you know what, let's just try and ship something at this point.
Like, I think the capital city is the highest point of the game. Like, that level is so intricate, and it's got so many levels. Like, upper level to explore, mid-upper level, lower level, subterranean level. Like, it is amazing. But then, like, where you go after that is, it just didn't live up to that. And it didn't even live up to the earlier areas in the game. And it kind of was like, that's when I started to get to the point of, like, yeah, I just want this game over. Because I had explored everywhere. I had done everything. And I don't know. I don't know if any of you guys saw my tweet yesterday. I posted a fight against one of the bosses, optional bosses, who's supposed to be difficult, but you can cheese them. But I don't need to cheese them because I'm just kind of OP in the game. And I'm not doing anything special. I'm running like a two-handed colossal sword build. And both my weapons are maxed out. And I have the Mimic tier, which makes the game literally trivial. And I destroy everything. I either destroy regular enemies in one hit or other enemies in like 2 or 3. And the bosses don't stand any chance. So while the game is difficult in the beginning, for sure, until you find the things that you want and level up, and I haven't grinded one bit, if somebody would ask me if this game was hard, I would say no. It's like, and I haven't done anything special, but I know everybody's different. I don't know, like, it feels like Sekiro to me was a million times harder. And I think Bloodborne was a little bit harder. I think with the way the open world was structured, with the ability to go anywhere you wanted, and how like each rune had like a chest, and how you could get these great weapons with minimal resistance. And then like you could find farming spots if you wanted to that could raise your level to like. I talked to somebody who went from like level 30 to level 110 in like an hour, and it's kind of just like, I guess that's just like, open world design for you, right?
Well, Dark Souls was like that too. It was super hard in the beginning, and then like you can look it up online, like where to find the Zweihander or where to find the Drake sword, and they're really easy to get right at the start of the game without fighting anything, and that's basically your easy mode. Is like breaking the game, and the cool thing about From Software game design, or at least when it comes to Dark Souls and Elden Ring, because I haven't played the others, is that they let you break the game. They let you get really overpowered, and they let you research and study how to become more powerful early on. And when I wrote an article saying like, this is the mentality you should have while playing Elden Ring, and it was basically like, be prepared to do research, because this game doesn't just, it doesn't give you everything in tutorials or make it easy for you. But if you're willing to put a bit of effort in to do some research, then yeah, it can be easy, or at least a lot easier. But a lot of people don't want to do that, or they don't feel like doing that, or they don't find that enjoyable, and that's completely fine too. But you know, when I first played Elden Ring, it was before there was no guides online. Didn't know where to find the meteorite staff. I didn't know about the spell Rock Sling or anything like that. So I just basically went straight to Margit at level 1 with my crappy spells, and I died like 15 times on him. I beat him eventually because I ended up memorizing his moveset so well that I just sort of, I was able to just dodge him with precision. But I didn't need to do that. I could have gone and got the meteorite staff from Caelid really easily, which would have boosted my spell damage by a huge amount. And then I could have killed him really easily by upgrading my ashes a little bit and have them tank for me and that kind of stuff. So it can be easy if you're willing to research how to be OP, because they let you break the game. And I think that's cool because it encourages a lot of discussion. It encourages community. And it reminds me of World of Warcraft, because back in the day in World of Warcraft, that game didn't give you any hints either. You had to research, talk to people, research on wikis, and learn how to make the best builds and stuff like that. Nothing was handed to you. And that's where the community in WoW used to be so great, but it's not anymore because they started making everything really simple. But I don't know. It's a cool game, and it's gonna have a long tail. I bet they'll do DLC for it, like expansions like Skyrim had. People will play New Game Plus, and there'll be mods for it and all kinds of ways to extend the life of the game. But I don't see this slipping out of the discussion for a while, because it's just got a really long tail. There's so much content. Like you can like different builds you can try. You can completely change the game. Like you play a sorcerer, and then you could play like a dragon priest melee guy, or just go all in on melee with a shield. And
I went all in
it's
on
like,
melee, but
it is like
I didn't even
Skyrim.
use a shield. I just two colossal swords, or two great swords for
You didn't
most of the
even
game, and then two colossal swords.
power stance though. Which is
Well,
what really confused me, because if you use two colossal swords of the same type, then you get like extra attacks, which gives you special combos
I
and stuff.
am
You
power
were just like
stancing.
YOLO.
I am power
Are you sure?
stancing. Yeah, two colossal swords of the same type. So when I press L1,
Oh,
I
I thought you
swing.
had different ones.
No. So yeah.
Okay.
Doctor
I thought I
Dingle.
saw a claymore and something else.
Dr. Dinglenet says, "Did you respec?" I did. I did respec because one of the colossal swords I wanted to use required more intelligence than I had, so I had to respec to put more in there. So I did respec. But I didn't really do anything special, and the beginning of the game, I would say, is the most difficult part, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
But the way I played it, I like go through an area and do everything, like find everything, and so like by the time I got to like some of the later areas, like I had my weapons were maxed out or close to being maxed out, and I was just a wrecking machine. So Yeah, I mean, I should finish it tonight. I think it'll probably be my game of the year, although we'll have to wait to see, how God of War Ragnarok turns out. But yeah, that's probably the last time we'll talk about Elden Ring on the show, like in this manner, because I know probably people are sick about it. But
Yeah.
I mean, this month ended up being great for me because Elden Ring, which wasn't a game I was planning on playing, and ended up loving it and reigniting my fire. And then the month started off with Sifu, which was incredible. And honestly, you could make the argument that Sifu is actually harder, for sure. But both amazing games. So Hero, he says he's been a member for 2 months. He says, I think the super chat is bugged. I tried sending a super chat and it duplicated in my bank 7 times.
Oh wow.
If super chat's bugged, then oh well.
If you could probably get a refund out of Google for that.
Well, I
Sorry
don't think
about
it
that,
came
but,
through 7 times. It won't let him
Oh.
send it. It just kind of duplicates it. But I haven't seen anything come
okay.
through.
Sorry about that.
Kimiro says Rand plays on PlayStation, but he's on an Xbox podcast. I don't know how many times I gotta like say this. Like, Xbox is my primary platform, but I'll play anything anywhere except for Nintendo, as most people know. I'm kidding with that, by the way. It doesn't matter what platform a game's on, I'll play it. So like, God of War comes out, I'll be on PlayStation. When Deathloop came out, I played it on PlayStation. I didn't wait to come to Xbox. When Ghostwire Tokyo comes out, I'll be playing it on PlayStation. It doesn't matter. I don't know, this whole like, oh, you're on Xbox, so you can't play in PlayStation. You're in PlayStation, you can't play on Xbox or Nintendo is just completely absurd to me. So I play where I want. And this is an Xbox podcast because that is my passion that I share with Jez. It's what I care about. It's what I know, pretty intimately. I'm very much connected to the Xbox ecosystem and have been for years in a way that I'm not really connected to PlayStation. But it doesn't matter. I'll just play games wherever. So if me talking about PlayStation on an Xbox podcast bothers you, then I don't know. We were just talking about what we're playing, so... anyways, let's talk, so we're gonna move away from Elden Ring, right? My buddy Gopher says, Rand can't wait for Breath of the Wild 2. No, I'm not gonna be playing Breath of the Wild 2 at all. I will not be doing that. George says, Jeff Grubb said Microsoft are doing a June show today. I did see somebody say that on Reset Era, but I've fallen for the thing where people say something Jeff Grubb said in a thread and he didn't really say it or he speculated, so I haven't checked it for myself. But George is saying that Grubb said today Microsoft is doing a June show. I did see somebody else say that in a Reset Era thread because he did say yesterday that EA's not doing the show, but then someone is doing a typical June E3 show during that time frame. And I thought to myself, it's got to be Xbox because Phil's on the ESA board. He was always kind of big, supportive of the ESA. Like, we weren't hearing they were doing a show any earlier, so yeah, June show makes a lot of sense, right, Jez?
Yeah, June show makes a lot of sense, and I would not bet against Grub. So yeah, June show it is, I guess.
June show it is.
I guess it'll be branded E3 as well. Microsoft, they support the ESA and they support E3 and they want E3 to continue to be a thing, even though I don't think it's going to be a thing anymore. But, is what it is.
Verum says, have you guys heard that about Dead Space Remake release date is in 2023? I did see they did that stream today and EA tweeted out that the game's coming early 2023, which is great. I love Dead Space. I cannot wait. I cannot wait to play that game again. Like, I am down for a full-on remake of that game. I would love to see a Dead Space 4, but Dead Space 1 and Dead Space 2 are two of my favorite games from the 360 generation. And
who's developing it?
EA Motive, I believe, is developing it, right?
See, I love Dead Space 2, and it was one of my favorite games on Xbox 360 as well. But it's EA. So I can't bring myself to have hype for it. And a lot of people say, well, Jedi Fallen Order was good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that was also Vince Zampella, right?
Okay.
You know, I don't trust EA to do right by anything right now. I'm looking forward to seeing how they try and incorporate microtransactions. I'm looking forward to seeing whether it has a battle pass or whether it has forced co-op or multiplayer or something. I'm looking forward to seeing how they manage to screw it up. I'd love to be wrong, but don't trust EA these days, man. Just don't trust
I mean,
them.
it's fair enough. I mean, I get it. I just am someone who's like, you're right. I don't really have the biggest hopes for EA, but I do like Respawn. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order 2 is going to be hot. It's going to be fire. And I am going to lean on the side of optimism for Dead Space. Because it's like, the original's there. The blueprint is there. The game is amazing. And it sounds like they're doing a remake. Maybe not a 1-to-1, but like, it's like you already have the blueprint for the game to be amazing because it already is amazing. So all you got to do is really just make it look better and have it run at 60 frames and whatever else, and it's gonna be a smash hit. Like that's all I want, you know. I mean, hell, I would have if EA had remastered these games and they had like new achievements and stuff. And they remastered them and were in 60 frames. I would replay both of them again. I love Dead Space 1 and 2. 3 not so much. So I'm super excited, and whatever, 2023, early 2023, that's perfectly fine by me. But I saw you put an article about Xbox event out this week, Jez. How was the reception of that?
Yeah, it was interesting. Like a lot of opinions. It was kind of echoing what Miles wrote, but I wanted to attach a poll to mine.
Okay,
and also
what was the poll?
Offer as another thing. Actually, I'll look at the results now. So the poll was: should Microsoft keep? I mean, it's not a scientific poll because I did argue a case for for one of the options in the article. So you could argue that some people maybe the poll is biased, but I'll still look at the results because I mentioned in the article that when we did the Xbox 2 and we put a poll out saying should Xbox do Nintendo Direct style shows more often or stick to their E3 format. And if I remember right, Rand, wasn't our poll something like 60-40?
Yeah, it was.
In favor of Nintendo Direct?
No, I think people were in favor of the big show.
Okay. Well, on Windows Central, across 531 votes, 70% say they should have more frequent Nintendo Direct style shows, and then 30% said they should do a once a year E3 style blowout. But again, it's not scientific because it was attached to an article where I'm arguing for a Nintendo Direct style thing. But I don't know. I suppose I wrote that article before Sony's State of Play, which doesn't seem like it was that well received.
No.
Obviously, I'm not really in tune with the PlayStation community that much, so I don't really see too much of it. But how was that received? The State of Play, didn't seem that it was received.
Well, okay, so when we've talked about Xbox doing other shows, right? Which I've said they should, but maybe not this year because I don't really think they have the content to support it this year. And my reasoning was whatever they show this year would mostly be dominated by smaller announcements, indie games, stuff like that. And normally those type of shows don't go over well with a general audience. General audience is looking for big AAA announcements. They're looking for the big exclusives. And when you mostly give them kind of low-key announcements, even though, like, with Sony, at their show, they announced some like, RPGs from Square Enix. One which is coming to Xbox and one that isn't. They announced a TMNT Cowabunga Collection, Jez, which, I don't know about you, that hits me right in the nostalgia feels. 13 Turtles games.
I never played one.
That's
never
my
played any of them,
bro. That's my childhood right there. Like they got the NES and the Genesis version. Did I ever tell the stories of how, like, the carnival would come here right, to one of the local schools by my house every summer, right? And in the gym, they would have just a bunch of arcade machines, like The Simpsons, Alien versus Predator, X-Men. If anybody in chat knows what I'm talking about, these arcade games, make sure you pipe up. And like one of my favorites is always the original TMNT arcade machine. And I always picked Michelangelo because he was always my favorite Ninja Turtle. And I used
The yellow one, right?
He's not the yellow one. No, he's the orange one. There's no yellow one. That's April O'Neil.
Orange and yellow is similar-ish. No?
Yeah. But I mean, I would always kind of save up my quarters. So like we'd go there and everybody would want to go on these rides, right? And I would literally beeline right for the gym and spend the entire time just playing all the arcade games there. And TMNT, that first one, is like my favorite. So they're putting all these in a collection. So like, even though I don't really have that big of an interest in playing all those again, I'm gonna buy it simply for the fact that it's Turtles, bro. Like I need this. But yeah. So like for the most part, the announcements didn't set the world on fire, but you knew it wasn't because they announced it like 2 days beforehand. It was a 20-minute show focused on Japanese publishers, right? You had these fake PlayStation insiders or wannabe PlayStation clout chasers on Twitter being like, we're going to see Metal Gear, Silent Hill, Final Fantasy 16, Gears, God of War release date, like Pie in the Sky, Square Enix, like all this stuff. Bloodborne remastered. And and then there are people out there being like, Resident Evil 4 is going to be announced at the end of the show as a PlayStation exclusive, right? None of this stuff came true because there are no actual PlayStation insiders on Twitter. I hate to burst a bubble for people listening. There's no such thing as a PlayStation insider, especially the ones that claim themselves to be on Twitter. The ones who actually do know stuff, they don't post about it on Twitter. I'm sorry. Well, I mean, actually, you know what? Nick is actually pretty good when it comes to PlayStation. I'll take that back. Nick has pretty good sources most of the time when it comes to PlayStation. But for the most part, like, those dudes, like, they're just hoping that stuff comes true, and it never does. So maybe those people, by saying this stuff is going to happen, inflates people's expectations, right? And people expect too much. So I will say, Jeff Keighley, who always does like a poll afterwards, right? And I would say mostly Jeff Keighley's followed, by a lot of people in the gaming industry, a lot of fans. And he said, how would you rate today's PlayStation State of Play? And if you recall, last year's Xbox E3 was rated very highly. It was like 80% A or B, right? And people really seem to like PlayStation State of Play, or the Xbox show last year. So this one, D or below, 45%. 26% a C. So basically you have what? You have 71% of the people who voted out of 100,000 people saying that it was a C or a below, which is not a good show. And then 20% said B, 27% said A. So, like we've been saying with Xbox, right? That if they were to do like a show this, like say they were doing a show next month, it would not be what people really want, right? What people really want.
What is important though is to set expectations.
Sure.
If Sony had said but
they did set Sony did set expectations. They're like, it's 20 minutes long and it's gonna mostly focus on Japanese stuff. Like they set expectations. It's just that people let their hopes and dreams run wild, right? And they think these things. It's like they're never gonna do anything like that in a state of play. Maybe in a showcase, but not a 20-minute state of play, right? And
what they should do is like it's all branding really. if they figure out a way to have like, I don't know, call it State of Play Mini or something, where it's sort of it's branded as such, and then like leave the big guns for the full blown State of Play, like how they could do like either inside either Xbox for the direct to digital games, and then like inside Xbox for the AAA games for their direct showcase. You know, only without the interviews, please. No more interviews. But you know, I think it's about branding as well. I think because if you just call everything State of Play, and then like some shows are a D and some shows are a B or an A, then you can't give people consistency. And I think what Nintendo does with its directs is give people that consistency, because we all know the algorithm demands consistency, you know, because people want consistency. They want to have their expectations met or exceeded, not their expectations underperform, you know. But who knows? I'm not a marketing guy. I'm just a random podcaster. What do I know?
Yeah. Well, my point was when we talk about the Xbox Direct and like Xbox having more shows, and I do think they need to do that in the future when they have a breadth of content that is coming year round instead of all their content coming at the end of the year, right? So like if Xbox did a show next month, but it was like punctuated by, okay, here's Redfall, but here's also these other games that are indie, I think the reaction to it would be very similar to State of Play, because I think the general audience isn't looking, and I hate to say this, but like the general audience really doesn't care for the indie games getting that spotlight. They want the big stuff. Indie games are important, and Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, and you know, they highlight them because you know they're important. But I don't think that's what people really want. They want an E3 level show essentially. But you're only going to get that show once a year, right? You're not going to get it every single time. So, yeah. So, like, while I do think Xbox needs to do more, I think it would be better served for them to wait until they have the content to actually, oh, well, we can show a new look at this and have more games to show. But they did announce an actual new Xbox event. It's not clickbait in the title. ID at Xbox is once again partnering with Twitch, I believe next week on March 16th. And they said that we'll be featuring updates, new trailers, and gameplay from Finji, who's launching Tunic next week as well, I believe. Right, Jez? Tunic is coming out next week?
Is it next week?
I'm pretty sure Tunic is next week, or yeah, close to it. And Whitethorn, as well as the first game from I Am 8-Bit's brand new publishing label. In addition to this, fans will also get a chance to see the latest and hear from teams working on Shredders, Roblox, and some new games that you need to tune in to see. And it'll be streaming exclusively on Twitch. Microsoft, you know, they brought back Twitch streaming to the dashboard last month. And this is the second time they've done this. If you remember, they did one last year in March, which was, if you recall, 10 hours long. Remember that show? I exaggerate. Yeah, it wasn't 10 hours long, but it was like 4 hours.
Like 3 hours long.
Yeah.
Yes, it was pretty long.
And I
think
done
like 3 of these Twitch indie things.
They did one in March and August of last year. So they did a second one, which I think
this is the third one.
This will be the third one. So I don't, you know, hopefully they learn their lessons from the previous ones. And, you know, this is basically, yeah, okay, you're just going to tune in to see Indie Showcase, which is great. There's also Trek to Yomi supposed to be showed off, which was, I forget, I don't know if it's Yomi or however you say it, but it looks like Sifu. Looks like a lot like Sifu. It's black and white. Looks like a cool Japanese samurai movie. That was also in the State of Play. Looks really cool, and I believe that game is coming to Game Pass on day one as well.
Yes, it is.
So... so hopefully they learn their lessons from the previous ones, and you know we get a look at a couple cool indies, maybe some Game Pass announcements, but obviously what people really want is the June show, which I guess, like we mentioned, Jeff Grubb said Microsoft is planning for an E3 style, and that's the one, you know, that's the big show, and then maybe they do an EXO at the end of the year. we'll just have to wait and see, right?
Yeah,
And then
and
next year,
they'll
I
be at the
think.
Game Awards too, right?
Well, yeah, maybe they would be, maybe they won't be. But then next year is the year that I would expect Microsoft to do multiple shows because they're gonna, because that's supposed to
I
be the year they
think
got everything coming. So
there's a big hint that Microsoft is planning to expand its programming because they recently opened a job application for a director of programming, basically. Someone whose job it will be to shape and develop the future of Xbox marketing events and stuff like that. Which, it's the kind of position you'd need if you were looking to do more frequent shows or you were looking to do like supplementary events like State of Play or Nintendo Direct. I don't think they're going to ditch the big June showcase because of their involvement with the ESA, but I do think there is room for like smaller events or maybe like events that are specific to a game, like offer a deep dive in a branded deep dive into specific games. Like they could do Fallout 76 Direct with Xbox branding or something. Just to sort of, and that's what I argued in the article, just to remind people that these games are Xbox games. Fallout 76 is an Xbox game, and Fallout 76 is regarded as like it's not regarded by the gaming community so favorably, but it's played by thousands of people. It's not a small game. Fallout 76 recently announced they've got content updates planned for the next 5 years. So you know, it's kind of like Sea of Thieves. It's a service game that maybe it's not the biggest game in the world, but it has a very dedicated fan base, like State of Decay as well. So I think these kind of games that do have these updates, they could be part of little mini Xbox branded direct showcases. And but yeah, I don't think they'll give up the big E3 slot because it's still really popular and it's almost nostalgic in a way. And it's really only Xbox that still does that. It gives us those big E3 showcase kind of things in June. So I don't know.
I think
We'll just have to wait and see.
I think if Phil had his way, I think he would love to do live shows. He really likes those. Even if everybody else is doing digital, I think Xbox would be like the one who would be like, "No, we're gonna do a live show," because he really likes the fans being there. Gives them a certain energy and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what Mike Morhaime used to say about BlizzCon. They used to say like BlizzCon was not a profitable event. It cost a huge amount of money. They had to rent out a big arena and staff it, security, and make sure everyone was there for events and stuff. But they did it. They did it for the fans, and they did it because the morale boost for the team. And I think like one of the first things Activision wants to do since Mike Morhaime left was wind down BlizzCon, and COVID gave them the perfect excuse to get rid of it. But I do think if Microsoft closes the deal with Activision, they'll probably bring back BlizzCon in full form at some point. Because Phil does appreciate the sense of community that gaming creates. It's not just about. That's why I'm really hyped about the Activision Blizzard deal, because it's not just about shareholders with Xbox. It feels like they feel a duty to the gaming community. They don't just feel a duty to shareholders, which obviously legally they are there to create value for shareholders at the end of the day. But it feels like Xbox is sheltered from that in a way that Activision, Blizzard, EA, Take-Two, and some of these other companies just aren't, But I don't know. Maybe I'm just naive.
No, you're not. You're not naive. But speaking of Blizzard, Jez, and this is right up your alley, the Overwatch 2 alpha was announced.
Yeah, Overwatch 2 alpha. Well, they're calling it beta, I think. It's
No,
like
I think they called it a
beta.
closed alpha, right? No?
I think it's called I think they're calling it PvP beta. I could be wrong about that. But it's interesting because Overwatch 2 was, sort of went really quiet for a while, didn't it? Like and also it lost Jeff Kaplan, its lead developer. Blizzard veteran, left the company right before the scandals started happening. Probably picked a good time to bail, frankly. But so a lot of people were worried about where the direction of Overwatch, and obviously Overwatch hasn't been getting very many updates while the team focuses on Overwatch 2. So I guess it's encouraging to see Overwatch 2 emerge out of the darkness. Overwatch is still probably my favorite shooter multiplayer game. I still jump on it every now and then. I still prefer it to Call of Duty, and I definitely prefer it to Battlefield 2042. So, and what's interesting to me, Rand, is that like even though there is a common narrative that Overwatch is dead or dying, um, the beta signups for Overwatch 2 literally crash Battle.net.
Yeah.
So many people were flooding to try and sign up. I signed up though. I don't suppose you were going to sign up, are you?
Nah, I couldn't care less.
Yeah, I signed up though. I got in, so hopefully they'll accept me and I'll write some cool content about Overwatch 2 because I love Overwatch 2. Overwatch, sorry. Don't know about Overwatch 2 yet. Obviously, I haven't played it, but I do love Overwatch 1. But yeah.
Overwatch. Imagine that everybody was like, "Hey, game's dead," but then as soon as they announce the signups, it's like, "Yeah, Battle.net's
Yeah.
down for the count." So maybe Overwatch 2 is going to be super popular. Okay, Jez, I got to ask you this because people have been asking me, and I don't know. You're the ones who knows all the code names about everything. But there's a new
I know
code.
what's coming.
There's a new code name that came out, and speculation is run rampant about whether this is, a new console, perhaps a mid-gen upgrade, or, like maybe a refresh, maybe the next-gen console, maybe a streaming box or whatever. It's called Xbox Keystone. And a lot of people are wondering, what could it be? And I know, you leaked some stuff about Lockhart and Anaconda and Scarlet and all these certain things. And Brad Sams talked about Hobart. You're the man with the project name. So what do you know about Xbox Keystone?
Well, first and foremost, it's important to note that this is not a hardware SKU codename. Walking Cat on Twitter, who is intimately knowledgeable about Xbox, Microsoft code names in general. He noted that this comes from a batch of code names that refers to Windows SKUs. So like as pertains to operating systems. So for example, we've got oh man, what was the code? Lockhart, right? Lockhart and Anaconda, yeah? If I remember right.
Yes.
Anaconda was the Series X. So Anaconda and Lockhart, that was the Series X and Series S. But the operating system is codenamed Scarlet. So if there is going to be a mid-gen upgrade console, it would also the operating system it'll run on will be Scarlet. So it'll be it'll be in the Scarlet family of devices, but it'll have a different hardware codename. But Keystone is another operating system SKU. So to me, that doesn't suggest that it's going to be a new device, and I don't think it's going to be consumer facing either. They wouldn't have a code name for a new operating system for an Xbox console this early into the gen. I don't think. I could be wrong, of course, because I don't know what a Keystone is specifically yet. But my instinct is that this is probably server related or something along those lines, because Keystone is full blown Windows. It's not like and if you were developing like a streaming stick or something, you wouldn't need the full blown Windows libraries to make that. I think if Microsoft does make a streaming stick, it's probably going to be Android based. And I think if they do make a handheld console, I also think that'd be Android based. I don't think they would use Windows to make that because Windows is bloated, and I don't think they need a full blown Windows SKU to make one of those devices. So for me, if I had to guess, it's probably server related, might be Xcloud related. Maybe it's the version of Xcloud that, I mean, to really stretch it and reach, maybe it's the version of Xcloud that runs PC games. I don't know. But I highly doubt it's a consumer facing thing at the moment, as in a new product. Like, I think it could be an extension of Xcloud. It could be something server related. I don't think it's a new Xbox console. I don't think it's a handheld or a stick or anything like that. I'm pretty sure those are going to be Android based. So, yeah. So if you see anyone out there claiming that Keystone's a new console, take it with a mountain of salt. I don't think it's a new console, but who knows, man? Could be completely wrong because I don't know what Keystone is yet, but we're working on it. Maybe we'll find out sooner or later.
Yeah, it's interesting though because we know that they're doing the streaming stuff, and you figure that's got to be close to coming out maybe this year, whether it's a stick or a box. At some point, I would imagine they're going to do a slim version of maybe the Series X. They always do some version of consoles. When the price of the components comes down and stuff, it's like that's bound to happen. Then there's like, well, they're gonna do a mid-gen refresh. That could be a thing, and then you would imagine if they are doing consoles for next gen, those start planning early on too. So it's like it could be anything, but then there's also, like you said, Xcloud to consider. Server blades, all that sort of stuff. So yeah.
I mean, I could be completely wrong. It could be the Windows 11 version of the Xbox dashboard that maybe they are developing for the next gen Xbox consoles in the distant future. It could be. So I don't know for sure what it is at the moment, but I just feel like this is probably something server related or Xcloud related, but it could be totally wrong.
Well, Nick says tomorrow's headline confirmed on Jez's show. Keystone is a version of Xcloud. Yeah, that's usually how that stuff will go, right? That's usually how all those things go. On Jez Corden's podcast, the Xbox 2, he confirmed Keystone is Xcloud related or whatever. So, yeah.
I don't know. I really don't know.
Jez, did you know that Xbox won the Metacritic publisher, was the top publisher for Metacritic last year? And
I did know this.
How crazy that actually is.
Were you shocked by that news?
I wasn't. Shocked. No, I wasn't shocked because I knew how good the games were that come out. Like Halo Infinite, as much as you hate it, right? As much as you despise Master Chief and Cortana and 343, it reviewed very well. And Forza Horizon 5 is the best racing game out there, right? Psychonauts 2 scored extremely well. Microsoft Flight Sim. So, like, I knew that the games they had all did well. From what I understand, like, Xbox had the best year ever, or best year ever for a publisher. Like, they averaged like an 87 or whatever. Which I still recall, which is always funny to me. When Phil Spencer took the stage at the Game Awards, I think in 2019, maybe it was, or maybe it was 2018, and he's just like, yeah, we can do better. It wasn't our best year. And I always just like kind of look at that as like, yeah, the man's telling the truth, because that year when he was there is like, yeah, that was a bad year. We'll do better. And here you have it a couple years later, top publisher. In fact, scores never seen before. And it just really goes to show you how, essentially they've turned it around. And people talk about like Game Pass fodder and all the different sort of stuff, the different ways you can cut down Xbox by, talking about their games. But, at least review-wise, they ended up being quality. And if that's something that can continue, and I think Bethesda was number 4 and Activision was number 5, and basically Xbox would have had number 1, number 4, number 5. So it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy to go think about like where they were when they were struggling putting out games to hit like 80. Like there was the whole meme about 60 meta, right? Like Sea of Thieves, State of Decay, Crackdown. These games that just came out that just like weren't critically good at all, and now it's like, hey, you're the top publisher, and you did something that no other publisher pretty much did, and it's like BFG says, that narrative is dead and buried. So I'm sure it'll come back up, because I don't think this year though, Jez, even though Xbox has Redfall and Starfield and Forza Motorsport, I don't think they're gonna win, because on Metacritic, if I'm not mistaken, Crossfire X is listed as published by Xbox Game Studios. And
Which is
that's a 40,
weird.
which is weird because it's not published by Xbox Game Studios. So
Yeah.
I don't know why it
That
is.
game is an enigma. That game is an enigma. It was like heavily marketed by Xbox, and then they tried to like sweep it under the rug. They're like, "Yeah, you guys publish it. We're not touching this." Oh man, what a weird game. Like, is anyone even playing it still? Like the online stuff? I don't know.
I don't think so.
That game's really big in Korea, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is really big in Korea. It's just for whatever reason, I don't know. Do they not get other shooters in Korea? I don't know why it's so big there, but it kind of came and
Maybe
went
it's
here,
just
and
better
nobody
or
cared,
something.
and it was very bad. Like old game design that people are kind of like don't care about anymore. You know?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's like the port's bad or something. I might try and look into that and find out like how does the Korean version of Crossfire differ from the Western version? Because clearly they're seeing something we're not. I think. But I don't know. But I said it surprised me, and the reason it surprised me was I think it was because in my head they hadn't released many games that appealed to me. You know, if I was just thinking about it like in a non-analytical way, if I was just thinking about it in a common sense sort of, not thinking about it too hard kind of way, I wouldn't have thought it would have been Microsoft up there, just because a lot of their games they released last year didn't appeal to me. And I think I tweeted this out that like, one of the reasons why they've been able to hit this is because they've gone so broad on the genre diversity, which is like to some degree, I think, encouraged by Game Pass to try and cater for every niche, hook people in who are really into Flight Simulator, and then, try and on ramp them algorithmically to similar games they might enjoy that are in Game Pass. Like I noticed they're pushing Lawnmower Simulator quite a lot on on Game Pass for PC. Like that game seems to be really popular. Have you played Lawnmower Simulator?
I've not played it. Nope.
They've just released the DLC for Lawnmower Simulator where you mow lawns in the dinosaur era, and there's dinosaurs running around. It's like, what is this game? It's a really strange game, but it seems to be popular, so I don't know. But like simulation games in general seem really popular in Germany, where I am now. Like Farming Simulator is huge. Rand, you should have seen the Farming Simulator booth at Gamescom in Germany. It's like they had licensed tractors there and like real life farming equipment all over the place. And you wouldn't think it that Farming Simulator has this like gigantic following, but it does. It's one of the biggest games in the world. And I think isn't Farming Simulator on Game Pass for PC as well, or some version of it. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but yeah, the point is that the diversity helps them, cater to a broader audience, which is what you want for a streaming service, I guess, with a subscription tied to it. But I still think like they've still got some areas to improve upon, even though they're the number one publisher out there. Like a lot of the games that I don't know, I would consider to be riskier to make, like your big action games with voice acting. You need writers for like you don't need Hollywood grade writing for Flight Simulator, for example. Not to discredit the writing on Flight Simulator, because it does have some writing and some voiceovers and all that kind of stuff. But it's not like it's not gonna win an Oscar for its for its story. That's not the kind of game it is.
Okay. Yeah.
So like
fair enough.
I do think they still need to make improvements on those kind of games, which are the big headline grabbing, risk taking games that a lot of studios increasingly seem afraid of making, because you invest all that upfront money and then people don't like it, like Marvel's Avengers, for example.
I know we said we didn't talk about it, but Elden Ring doesn't have that much dialogue in it, or voice acting,
I know.
really. And it's like
It doesn't.
96 meta, so you don't really need it,
Yeah, it's true. I think Elden Ring story delivery is probably going to change the way the industry at large thinks about some of this stuff, because it's not like Elden Ring doesn't have a story. It's not like Elden Ring doesn't have lore. It has very deep lore and a very intriguing story, but it leaves a lot of it up to the player's imagination almost, which in some ways is weirdly more impactful. Like I don't want to spoil it, but in Castle Stormvale at the start of the game, if you can take the main path through the castle. It's very, very easy to do, and then kill Godric, and then never come back there again. But if you explore a bit and go into the basement and go into like the graveyard area behind the castle, which you don't need to go to, there's like a really creepy fossil thing in the floor, which really stuck with me for some reason. Like it's just terrifying. I was like, what the hell is this? Like, why is this here? You know, how does this fit into the story? Like, it sparked my imagination in a way that like the sort of dry Ubisoft style wannabe Hollywood delivery just doesn't, you know. So it's not like Elden Ring doesn't have story, but yeah, it still needs good writers, and that costs money, I guess, which also increases risk in a way that you don't really get on a game like Flight Simulator. So I don't know. I still want to see Microsoft deliver in that area, in the story-driven, epic moments, memorable stuff area. But there's signs that they're doing well in that space too. Like Psychonauts has very, very amazing writing, for example. I just hope we see more of that. Psychonauts grade writing, and hopefully with Fable and some of the other games that will be story-driven, hopefully we'll see some of that.
Yeah. No, I think they're on good footing. I think it's like the days of like, worrying about like 60 meta and stuff, and I think those are over. Like, I didn't think they'd turn around this fast. Like, I didn't think like, 2020 here, 2021, and they're the highest rated publisher, and they've actually hit an average that nobody else has ever done. And it's probably going to be harder to keep that up because like you're going to be releasing so many games, and there's also, you release so many games, there's a chance that one or two games may not be the best, right? So like,
yeah,
the average might go down. But not only did they win Metacritic Publisher of 2021, which is, a lot of people use Metacritic as the standard, right, when talking about how good games are, and we know, the industry uses that as a way to like, which kind of sucks, but like give out bonuses and things like that. So like, it's important. But we got Mpd results today for the month of February, and even though Switch sold the most units, and PlayStation sold the most, made the most money, Xbox outsold PlayStation again, Jez. In units sold, and Elden Ring was the best-selling game, and it certainly definitely seems like Elden Ring is taking the Souls game from niche to like ultra, or not maybe ultra, but like really good mainstream now. Like, it outsold Horizon Forbidden West, which is the sequel to a game that sold 20 million copies. It outsold Dying Light 2. It outsold the second month of Pokemon, whatever hell tagline they're using for this. What was it? Pokemon Legends or whatever. I don't. What was this Pokemon game called?
Pokemon Legends.
Whatever.
Bro.
Whatever. Like, it outsold that, and it's kind of crazy. Whatever the numbers are doing, but yeah, it keeps on coming back to Xbox outselling PlayStation, and this has happened quite a few times already, and it's just, everybody thought at the beginning of the gen that it was just going to be straight PlayStation dominance, but with the Series S, also, Game Pass, and the Xbox being desirable, you're going to have these months like which is odd because PlayStation had a great month. They put out Sifu and they put out Horizon, and they still are supply constrained to the point where it's like they probably can't sell as much as that would have been a huge month normally if you had your supply situation figured out. But here we have it. Xbox is still selling, and it didn't have, it only had Elden Ring, So, I mean, what do you make of all that?
It shows that the Series S was a genius move, frankly. I don't know if Microsoft had prior knowledge of there being going to be a massive chip shortage, because obviously Microsoft works very intimately with Intel and other companies that manufacture chips because of their PC business. So at some point, a decision was made by Microsoft to make a SKU of Xbox that was easier to source silicon for, and they can source the silicon for the Series S far easier than Sony can source silicon for the PS5, and far easier than Microsoft can source for the Series X. And honestly, that's actually going to get harder this year. It's not going to get easier. It's going to get even harder for them to source silicon for the next year or two at least, um, because of certain global events, um, which are too depressing to think about right now. But it's actually going to get harder to source some of these chips. So the Series S is going to continue holding its own and continue growing the Xbox ecosystem in a time where competing platforms are really constrained. Like, a lot of people are saying, like, oh, Nintendo needs to make a 4K Nintendo Switch now. Like, they need to make a Switch Pro right now. But it's like, with what silicon? With what silicon are they going to do this? My Steam Deck is on back order to 2023. You know, I don't think Nintendo's sitting there thinking, man, we really need to make a 4K Nintendo Switch, or we're going to lose customers. It's like, no, because there's no bloody silicon for this stuff. There's no semiconductors, and soon there's going to be no neon for it either. The silicon situation is really, really bad, and it's only going to get worse. So whoever at Microsoft made the decision or put forth the strategy to have a console that was easier to manufacture from a raw materials perspective, they were a genius, and they should probably get a raise. Maybe it was just Phil, and that's why Phil got promoted. Because I think if Xbox only had the Series X right now, they would be in dire straits. They would be in a really tough place, because a lot of the silicon for the Xbox Series X, as we know, is being routed towards servers right now, which is Microsoft's core business. So the Series S is really, really, really helping the Xbox platform right now. And I don't know if you saw today, Rand, but Dying Light 2 announced that with Microsoft's help, they were able to get Dying Light 2 to 60 frames per second on the Series S too.
Yeah, which is really good.
Yeah.
And then they
So,
upped the
like,
resolution on the Series X, right? Too, for in the performance mode. There's like 3 modes now as well. They added.
Yeah, there's a new balanced mode which hits 60 frames, but also like 1440p or something. So, like, I think when devs get to grips with the Series S a little bit more as well, it'll start performing above what you might be expecting it to. A lot of the games might launch at 30 frames, like Chivalry 2 as well. Chivalry 2 was 30 frames per second on the Series S initially, and it had horrible performance. But then Microsoft was like, do this, do these tweaks, and you can get it to 60 frames really easily. And now Chivalry runs at a flawless 60 frames per second on the Series S. So as devs learn their ways around this system, which is rapidly becoming one of the most popular consoles this gen, it's gonna start performing really well. And like, if you're a little kid and like one of your main console is maybe like the Nintendo Switch, and then like your side console is the Series S, as long as it's running at 60 frames, do you really care if it's running at 4K? I know, like, a lot of the kids I know, like my mates' kids and stuff, they don't have 4K TVs in their bedrooms. They have like 1080p monitors and stuff. They don't need 4K. And most gaming PCs aren't 4K either. They're like 1440p at most, and we're prioritizing frame rate. So the Series S, frankly, deserves a lot more credit than it's getting, and I might actually write an editorial about that next week. I've been really impressed with the way that console's performed, and I think it's only going to get better as well. As the dev tools get better, and the information gets better, and devs get more, learn how to use it more, and it's a really great console. But
Yeah,
that's against the narrative, Rand.
yeah. Well, the narrative is that's hold back the gen, and if it's having problems now, imagine what it's going to be like. There's certain people out there that constantly say things, and then it's like, oh, well, look at this.
Yeah.
I gotta mention this because I couldn't believe it when I saw it, but did you? Because like mainstream outlets started to report on it. Did you see the whole thing with the guy who took console passion to a new level by putting out a video of himself in the operating
Oh
room?
no.
Did you see that by
Oh
chance?
no. Yeah, I saw that. Oh
Like,
man, I could not believe that. I was like, no, dude, no, this is not the way. I was thinking of him. I was thinking like, man, this is gonna affect your job. What are you doing? You're completely crazy. Like, why would you do this? I can't believe he did that. And then like you saw Vice and Kotaku
yeah,
pick it up and run with it. We
I
we didn't cover it because we don't usually cover those kind of the cultural stories on Windows Central. We don't really cover that very often, but I saw like all these mainstream media outlets picking it up, and I was like, man, he must be feeling horrible right now. Like, I feel bad for the guy, like genuinely. Like, I
I
had him
couldn't
blocked
believe it,
because he
Jez.
was an asshole, but
I couldn't believe it. I
yeah,
was like, this is the worst. I was just like, well, these
yeah.
people don't think I'm a doctor. Well, I'm gonna show them. Like, and just I couldn't believe it. I was like, man, this guy, you better take this down before this blows up. I was just like,
Yeah.
what is going on? Man,
He's new to his whole digital life now, I think.
yeah, and then people started
But,
review bombing the hospital he worked at. I
oh man,
I
it's
couldn't
crazy.
believe it. It's like, think before you you do social media. Like the people that are
Yeah,
involved in the quote unquote war, right? Uh,
yeah.
it's just, I've never seen anything like that, and I've kind of been around for a while. Whether it's like back in the forums on NeoGAF and stuff, like, and this was the I couldn't believe, like, you jeopardized your job for it. Oh, I couldn't believe it when I saw it, and I just had to like briefly mention it because it was just
It was
that takes the
pretty
cake.
crazy.
It is like seriously like one of the dumbest things I've ever seen on social media. Like I couldn't believe it.
Oh.
It was just too funny. It was just too funny. But I don't know. I really don't even feel bad for him, Jess. That's the thing. I know you said you feel bad for him, but I don't. He should know better. You should know better. That's like when you're in that situation, you shouldn't be taking videos and pictures of, someone in an
Yeah,
emergency
maybe.
and getting operating on and then showing their information. Like, are you not even supposed to have like cell phones? Isn't that supposed to be like a clean room? You're not supposed to have stuff like that on you. Like, so it's like, no, I don't
Wow.
feel bad for him because you would know about the ethics of the position and the job you're in, and that's like the most like non-ethical or whatever way you want to phrase it, some way you could do it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just,
Well, he claimed that he had permission, didn't he, or something,
yeah,
of
like.
the patient? But
Could
you
you
know,
imagine going there
man,
and like, hey, you're getting some surgery done and you're about to get put under, and someone comes up to you and be like, hey, by the way, I want to post something online to win this argument. So like, can I have your permission to film you while you're asleep and then show your information, and then not only have him say yes, but then have the hospital approve it. It's like, what world are we living in
yeah,
now?
oh man,
Could you imagine? I would be like, you know what? I don't feel comfortable having this surgery anymore, right? Ugh.
yeah, it's pretty crazy. But that's what the console war does to people. It rots people's brains, apparently.
Yeah.
Ah, man, I can't
Um.
imagine caring that much about where someone else plays their games. I really just life is just too damn short. Like, can you imagine if like, you know, you go to someone's house and they're using a brand of washing machine you don't like? Why
mm,
why why do we do that about video game consoles? Like, I don't care what brand of washing machine someone likes. I don't care about what brand oven they use. You know, what washing machine do you have? Or do you call them laundry machines or something in America? Laundry machines.
washing
What do you call
machines.
them?
I mean, washer
You
and
call them washing
dryer.
machines?
Yeah.
Yeah, wash and dry. What do you call you? What brand of washing machine do you
I
have?
don't even know, dude. I don't even know.
You don't even know?
I
Man,
don't.
you're not a very
Not off the top
dedicated
of my
washing
head.
machine fanboy.
Not off the top of my
Oh,
head.
man. Why do we put so much value on the console brand people plays then? It's so dumb. So dumb, man.
It is, but
I don't know what brand of washing machine I've got either. I'm inclined to go and check now because I want to know. I'm going to become a washing machine fanboy now, and we're going to start washing machine wars. I want everyone in chat, go and find out what brand of washing machine you have. We're going to start a war about who has the best brand of washing machine, because that's about as smart as the console war is, in my view. Oh, man. And they're grown adults, man. They're grown men. They're not little kids in the playground. They're grown-ass men. What the hell?
Oh, well. Yeah, it'd be. I don't think we'll see anything top that. Maytag. Yeah, no. I'm a Maytag fanboy. If you don't got Maytag, if I come to your house and there's no Maytag there, I'm destroying the house, right?
Oh man, I haven't even heard of that brand. That's like the Ouya of washing machines, bro. Mate, it's all about Samsung, baby. Samsung make washing machines. I just discovered. I started googling washing machine brands. What is wrong with me? Oh man, I didn't even know Samsung made washing machines.
They actually make washing machines?
Yeah, Samsung made washing machines, and they've got connected washing machines too.
What?
Like you can connect. Yeah, you can connect your smartphone to a washing machine, and it'll tell you when you when your washing's done. Oh, your laundry, when your laundry's done.
What about, instead of washing machine, what about fridges, bro? You don't got a Kenmore? You're out of here, bro.
I know Samsung does fridges too. They do a smart fridge. You can actually play, and I'm not kidding, you can play Xcloud on a Samsung smart fridge, bro. So you can be in the kitchen and you can fire up Xbox Game Pass and connect up your gamepad, and boom, Xcloud on your fridge. You know, can't beat that. Fridge wars, baby.
Is there? Think about this, like Netflix, Disney Plus, HBO Max. Are there fanboys for those platforms? Like, do we not see like the underside of like a Netflix versus Disney Plus versus Hulu versus Amazon Prime fanboy war in social media that we're just not a part of? Does that actually exist too? Or does it not exist because you can get Netflix and all these other ones on everywhere? Like, is that something that happens? Because I think I did see that, like, there is like a shoe war or a shoe fanboy thing on social media.
Shoe fanboys?
Yeah. Well, we know there's a phone, right?
What?
We know there's a phone one with Apple and Android, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit.
But I remember like people from Mpd talking about like, oh, you guys think the console war is ridiculous. The shoe fanboy war is like way worse. And I'm like, shoe fanboys? Like,
man, I'm intrigued by this. Like, what? I'm struggling to even name a brand of shoe off the top of my head. Like
Nikes, Adidas,
man, Americans pronounce all the names of shoe companies wrong too.
Correctly, you mean?
Nike and Adidas.
Adidas? Adidas?
Adidas, man. It's Nike and Adidas. Adidas. Get out of here.
Adidas and Nike, bro. What are you talking about? That's the way you...
Nike?
No.
Nike?
Yes.
You don't say bikey, do you? Bike, B-I-K-E? That's pronounced bike. Ergo, Nike is pronounced Nike. No? Is that not logical? Mm-hmm. Oh, man. I still prefer the washing machine wars, personally, though. Oh, man.
Crazy.
What a world.
Crazy. Anyways, moving away from that, but Xbox put out an update for the dashboard. So we got a controller update, Jez, that lets you remap the quick resume button, or not, lets you remap the share button, which can... All right, I guess we're going to talk about this. But they've taken away the ability to share to Twitter, haven't they, Jez? I think you tweeted about it, right?
Yeah.
Is that
yeah,
odd?
I did.
Have you gotten any more information from anybody at Xbox about that? Like, is that a glitch? Is that a bug? Is that something intentional? Is that just being removed from console? Like,
it is really strange. I spoke to a few people at Xbox about this, and usually they're pretty forthcoming. Like if there's a bug or there's something up, or they're testing it, they'll be like, oh yeah, that's a bug, we'll fix it, blah blah blah. But the fact that nobody will talk to me about this suggests to me that it is indeed an intended change, and it's something that probably will go ahead. Now, I have no idea if they've got a plan to replace it with something else, or they're thinking like, because Twitter charges money for API use,
Mm.
and I'm guessing like the more people that use the API to share from Xbox to Twitter, maybe that costs Microsoft money, and they're just like, this ain't worth it for what we're getting out of it. So maybe they're just like, because maybe they're just going to replace it with the system of you share it to your phone and then you share it from your phone to Twitter, because obviously that doesn't cost any money. Because as of right now, on the version of the Xbox dashboard that I'm using, all you can do is upload it to OneDrive, your activity feed, or send a link to your mobile phone, which you can then share from Twitter. But it's really irritating, Rand, because both PlayStation and Nintendo Switch have that built in. Obviously, Nintendo Switch, it's the only way, off the top of my head, to easily share content from a Nintendo Switch to the internet without having to use SD card or something. So it's weird that Xbox is going to be the platform that doesn't have that feature, and kind of sucks because I use that feature personally. But I don't know, if you're not on Twitter, then it's probably no big deal to you or whatever. But
Yeah,
I use
I
that
know
feature a
you
lot,
use
man.
the feature, but so I took a clip of Elden Ring when I posted that boss. So I took the clip and it popped up on my phone, and then I just shared it from my phone, which was a lot easier
Yeah.
because I didn't have to type in the on the keyboard on the Xbox and have to wait for the Xbox to upload the video. So I mean, do you think the sharing the phone is better? Because or
I don't know. It works fine for me off my Xbox. I mean, sometimes Twitter's weird. Like sometimes I share to Twitter from my phone. The quality will sometimes be higher on Twitter than if I'd shared it from my Xbox. It's honestly hard to tell, but I suppose when this build goes live to the public, they might try and explain it, but maybe they're just kind of hoping nobody notices or no one
well,
cares.
nobody, but
Like
people
maybe
are.
it's just
But when it goes live to everybody, people will notice because people love sharing their content. And if that's just taking away, especially after Jason Ronald said one of their priorities is, improving the Xbox DVR. But what good is improving the Xbox DVR if you can't share your awesome epic clips and screenshots from your Xbox console anymore? Are they gonna
yeah.
try to have a campaign of educating people that you can do it through your phone? Like, I don't know. They sort of
I
set
don't know.
themselves up between a rock and a hard place here because I don't mind sharing it through my phone. In fact, that's how I prefer to do it. But many people use it through the console. So if you're saying you're going to fix the DVR, but then you're also going to remove the feature of sharing it directly from the console while your completing platforms let you do it, people are going to be like, well, what's the end game here, right?
Or what am I getting out of this? Like, why are you doing this? Is there something better coming down the line or something? I don't know. I just want them to be transparent about it. If you're removing a feature, then at least tell people why you're doing it.
Yeah, I
But just
remember.
sort of, waiting for the community to find out, and then people like me to complain about it on Twitter is kind of like, I don't know,
Like
a
seriously,
bit weird. But
if you're improving the game DVR, but you nobody's gonna know because nobody's gonna be able to share their content. So what's the point of improving the game DVR, right?
yeah, it is strange. Like Microsoft, in the Windows update for Windows 11, they integrated Clipchamp into Windows, and Clipchamp is a service they bought. They bought a few months ago, and Clipchamp's like a web-based video editor, which currently doesn't work on Xbox. You can try to use it, but the RAM allocation for the Xbox dashboard is not enough for using Clipchamp. Like if you put like more than one clipping to Clipchamp, it just crashes the browser because the Xbox browser does not have enough RAM access to use it. So part of me was wondering, like, have they bought Clipchamp to, fix their terrible, video editing features on Windows? Because, both Windows and Xbox have terrible video editing features out of the box. Meanwhile, Apple has iMovie and Final Cut Pro, which is often cited as a reason to me why people prefer using Mac, because Windows doesn't have anything like that out of the box. You can get programs like DaVinci Resolve and stuff, which are pretty good. And you can get programs like professional tools like Adobe Premiere, which are good, but also very expensive. But this Clipchamp program, Rand, it costs $9 a month. If you want to export 1080p video, it costs $9 a month. They consider 1080p to be a business grade feature, which is just a joke. It's a bad joke, So I don't know what their game is. I don't know what they're playing at. I don't know what they're doing with the game DVR and the sharings features. I was hoping for a world where we could like edit a cool video, share it to Instagram, TikTok, wherever, with meme stuff in it, because that's the world. The world is powered by memes now. And if I want to create a meme, I've got to like export the video to InShot on Android, which is a really great video editing tool, by the way, InShot for Android, and I think it's on iOS as well. And you can make a meme video with keyframe animations and all kinds of stuff really quickly just by tapping around. It's really, really cool. Why can't Xbox or even Windows have anything like that? It feels like Microsoft's really complacent on some of this stuff, and I don't know. We're still waiting for information. We're in like this holding pattern with Xbox right now. Although they did announce, Rand, that we will be able to get Xbox updates while Energy Saver is turned on, at least.
Yes, there's that, you can pin more games to quick resume, like 2 games or whatever, so it'll be there always. And the controller update where you can kind of remap the share button. I think was that it for the update? They got mouse and keyboard support for Xcloud, Xcloud gaming, which was So
they kind of sneaked that out in an interview about Flight Simulator. They were like, "Yeah, we're going to bring mouse and keyboard support to Xcloud, but it's not there yet." But I don't know. We're just waiting. We're just waiting. That's what we do.
It's funny. The updates to the dashboard have definitely been like less impactful or less like big as time keeps on going on. Because it used to be when they kind of switched this, like you get big stuff, and then like each update progressively was just like, not really. You just like, not much in the updates or whatever. So, yeah. What else we got here to talk about? Oh yeah, I figured this is funny, so I wanted to get your take on it. PlayStation is doomed and won't exist as we know it in a decade, says Michael Pachter. So our friends over at RDX, podcast run by Dealer Gaming, they had Michael Pachter on, and he caused a stir. What?
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it was on RDX.
Yeah, he was on RDX. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, he basically said, quote, "I think PlayStation is doomed, and I think they're going to cease to exist as we know them in about 10 years. They can't compete, and they have no chance of competing." He went on to say that Game Pass is Microsoft's meal ticket, and the extensive variety of content makes it more lucrative than what PlayStation is offering. Yeah, so this obviously made the rounds, and people were talking about it because bringing up Patcher's predictions, like he's been right about some stuff, but then wrong about stuff. But he's also famously, when people talk about Pachter, it's like, oh, well, Pachter said this. Well, that means the opposite's going to happen, right? So I still recall when he said that the Switch was going to be an abject failure, and it's like, well, that was wrong. Or that what was it, the Amigo, or what was that console, the Intellivision Amigo, which was supposed to Amiga that was supposed to launch in 2020. He said that was like the going to be like the best hardware or something, and the thing that hasn't even come out yet and probably never come out. But like he has a bunch of predictions that are just off the wall that obviously never come true. So like What do you think? 10 years from now, PlayStation Doom, Jazz, they'll no longer exist because they just can't compete with Microsoft's pockets, and Game Pass is just gonna, basically. I think maybe more like like maybe PlayStation gets bought by Apple or somebody like. I don't know. Can you imagine a scenario like this? You think Michael's gonna be right? Is PlayStation doomed? Is it just we're just waiting for it to keel over?
I think like there are some scenarios where it could happen, but I don't think it's for the reasons Michael Pachter says. I think like man, it's kind of bleak, frankly. But the way the world's going right now, there's a huge supply chain crisis with regards to things for making semiconductors and things like that. You know, so as it becomes harder for companies to get their hardware out there, increasingly they're going to be relying on PC to make money. Frankly, going to places where gamers are, and we've seen that PlayStation like they're struggling to keep up with the hardware pace, even with the Series S. The supposedly weakest console ever. They can't even keep pace with the Series S in the US, which is, and it's only going to get worse. When we hit a neon shortage, which we're gonna hit in the next few weeks, it's gonna really hurt the access to chips and hardware. At which point, companies like Sony and Sony PlayStation, and Xbox, they're going to be increasingly leaning on PC. So, is there a future where they just like both of them even? They just think, you know what, let's just throw in the towel on making our own consoles and just go all in on Steam. Because that's where gamers are right now and stuff like that. Could that happen? Could there be a world where they just be like, let's extend the PlayStation 4 life cycle out an extra 4 or 5 years or something? That's probably more likely. But and then like you've got Microsoft, which has like mountains of servers and everything being cloud based. Is there a world where they just go all in on cloud, because it's becoming increasingly hard to source the materials to make these consoles? Or do they find alternative ways to get the raw materials to make these consoles? Because right now there's only a few countries in the world that make semiconductors and manufacture neon for building semiconductors and all that kind of stuff. There's a huge supply chain crisis right now, and Microsoft is in a better place to weather that storm potentially than PlayStation is, which is they rely almost entirely on their internal platform. They don't have a huge presence on PC yet. I mean, it's growing, and like the naysayers out there say Sony won't put their games day and date on Xbox, PC, sorry. They're just frankly wrong, because look at how hard Horizon fell out of the news cycle because it wasn't on PC. If Horizon Zero Dawn had launched on PC alongside, not Zero Dawn, Horizon Forbidden West, if that had launched on PC alongside PlayStation 5, it wouldn't have dropped out of the news cycle anywhere near as hard as it did because of Elden Ring, which was on everything. It's getting, in a world where Sony can't get the hardware into people's hands fast enough, in a world where it's going to get even harder to get the hardware into people's hands fast enough, it increasingly makes sense for them to focus on being a publisher on PC. And I think there is a world where in the next maybe 3 to 4 years, or even less maybe, Sony starts seeing the bulk of its software sales shift over to PC. I would not be surprised if that happens because of the shortages. So I don't know what reasoning Michael Pachter gave for saying PlayStation is doomed. I think they can compete with Microsoft on content and services and hardware and all that sort of stuff. It's just that world events and supply chain issues are sort of making it really hard to be a console manufacturer right now, making it super hard. And Sony's kind of stuck in between a rock and a hard place. And I think things like their VR platform, which is cool, they're ultimately indulgent. They're wasting a ton of silicon on these things that could be going into PlayStation 5s. Like we're not in a world where we can have these, like, we can waste all these raw materials on VR, which is a niche proposition right now. And we're seeing devs move away from VR for realizing what it is. particularly so given that it's controlled by Meta, which, people of a certain age don't even want to associate themselves with. So I don't know. I think there is going to be huge challenges for PlayStation if I was speaking about it analytically from a processor access perspective. But I don't think the reasons Pacta gave hold water on with regards to competing with Microsoft. Yeah, Microsoft has like very broad goals for genres that it wants to use and make and stuff like that. And Sony goes specifically on games that it thinks will sell its platform. But that's going to be increasingly hard because they can't make a platform with no silicon. So I think Sony will probably shift harder towards service games and PC games and moving things to PC and also subscription services, because I think Microsoft just knew this was happening earlier than Sony did. I think Microsoft knew from their connections with the PC industry that things were going to get really turbulent for silicon access. And Microsoft had a plan in place and Sony didn't. But can Sony pivot? Yeah, they can. And I don't think Sony's going to be doomed per, some of the headlines out there. But it's going to be, the industry is going to be very different in 3 to 4 years, I think. If indeed there even is an industry, given what's going on in the world.
Sometimes I like to think that Michael makes these sort of off-the-wall predictions because it's just like publicity for him, because people will then say like, well, I should be able to be paid like that if because I can say those things, because he works at he's a analyst for like WebRush, who does like, is that like a hedge fund or I don't know exactly.
Bush,
yeah, but I'm sure he's probably good at what what his real job entails. But yeah, hearing like, I don't know, 10 years is a long time. Like I kind of look back at what Xbox in 2012 was, like the 360, and then what Xbox is now in 2022, and it's like, yeah, there's some significant differences. I mean, you even look at like PS3 in 2012 versus what PS5 is, and who knows what the next 10 years are going to bring. Nobody ever thought crossplay would happen, and now that's sort of like kind of the standard. You got like Sony, you got like Microsoft buying publishers, maybe Sony's going to buy publishers. Will the move to PC, does like, if Sony puts everything on PC, is the console even needed for them? Like, does somebody come in and buy them? Does Game Pass really change? Does Game Pass really become this thing that just changes the video game industry and Sony can't pivot enough, so then they get like knocked out because they can't compete with Microsoft's wallet? I mean, who knows what happens in the next 10 years? So it just, I would tend to disagree with Michael on this one. But I mean, I just don't think PlayStation looks the same now. And when we get to 2032, I think PlayStation is obviously going to look a lot different than what it looks like right now. That's just kind of the way things evolve and change over time, right? Yeah. But the whole like doomed, like, I just kind of like, maybe not. I would lean towards probably not. But you never know. But it's funny because the discussion that always follows from it, people wanting to defend PlayStation's honor, because I saw a lot of that. Like, we need to get on here and defend PlayStation from Michael Pachter. And it's just like, Michael Pachter also said the 360 and PS3 gen were going to be the last console gen, right? And then there's been literally 2 after it. So like, he's made a lot of predictions that have just been completely wrong, and this could just be another one. So it's like, yeah, like Emmett says, if we even get to 2032, right? Like, so
I think Microsoft's taken steps to insulate its business from market turbulence in a way that Sony hasn't yet. I think that's maybe where he's coming from to a degree. Like, Microsoft's like, they've gone very hard on, established, the reason they want Activision Blizzard is not Xbox, frankly. It's not the console. It's not the console war. It's because of PC. It's because of the footprint they've got on PC. It's because of the footprint they've got on mobile. It's to diversify their portfolio, to to meet Tencent, because Tencent is basically everywhere except console, and it's the biggest in the world. How many games from Tencent are on console? Like, there's not they they don't have the same kind of footprint on console that they have on PC. Like, there's no League of Legends on console, there's no Valorant on console, um, and stuff like that. So I think Microsoft has been smart to diversify their gaming platform for the future in a way that Sony hasn't. Sony's put all of its eggs in the PlayStation hardware platform, and they've put a lot of emphasis on these headline grabbing Hollywood games, which they don't have a long tail, and they don't make a lot of money. They don't make, like, God of War has no microtransactions, which is great, and I'm all for that, and it's important. But they don't have any games that have microtransactions to offset that. So where Microsoft will make games that don't have microtransactions. They also have games that do have battle passes and do have, cosmetic stores to sort of offset that, so they can have a diverse lineup of business offerings across PC, Windows, mobile, and console. And I think where Pact is coming from ultimately, if he isn't just trying to rile people up to grab some headlines, I think where he's coming from is, like, from a diversity perspective. The Sony operation is not the most diverse right now, or it's not diverse in the right way. Whereas Xbox is gunning for PC, they're gunning for cloud, and they're gunning for a diverse range of games that all have upsells. They all have microtransactions, and they all have a long tail. There's going to be DLC for Flight Simulator for years and years to come. There's going to be DLC for Sea of Thieves for years and years to come, and Fallout 76 for years and years to come. And there'll be people who get really into those games, and they'll obsess over them, and they'll spend the money on Fallout 76 repair packs or whatever they're called, and they'll spend the money on solitaire coins and stuff like that. I think Sony will have a more diverse portfolio in the next few years, and they have signaled to investors that they do intend to make some more service-driven games, which should diversify their portfolio and help them see off some headwinds from the chip shortage, which is ultimately the biggest issue for Sony right now, is they can't make PS5 fast enough. But are they doomed? No, they're not doomed. And Sony will pull through and adapt, and they'll be fine, I think.
Well, you heard it here. Jez says they'll be completely fine. So, you know what? I think we've actually run through all the things I had written down. So, if anybody has any questions, make sure you put them in chat. We'll get to them. I know the super chat's not working, and we usually will have a lot of discussion based off of those. So if you guys have anything you want to talk about, put them in the chat, and we will get to them. I don't know if this is going to be the end of the show, but I guess it really depends on how many questions that we have. But if I just want to say thank you guys for being here. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the show. Subscribe if you're new. And let's see what the peeps in the chat have for us, Jez.
Peeps.
What's your upcoming week looking like?
My upcoming week, I don't know. I ain't looked out that far ahead, to be honest. I think we're winding down on Elden Ring stuff right now. Brendan Lowry on Twitter, Brendan Law Lowry. I want to give him a shout out because his work on Elden Ring has been phenomenal. Samuel Tolbert as well. And Miles was asked to do our Steam Deck review and our Elden Ring review in 1 week. So Miles Dompier did a really great job. But yeah, I don't know what's next. I'm hoping that Microsoft gives us something to talk about because I think the Elden Ring stuff's winding down right now. But I don't know what my week looks like. I'm gonna try and kill Radahn because I'm a bit behind in my Elden Ring playthrough.
You're behind me. I'm way ahead of you, and you had the game way before me. What's going on?
Yeah, I played my sorcerer to level 70 or something, and then it was like, oh well, we need some guides on melee now. So I was like, okay, well I'll start a new save. So I started a second save and got my melee guide to level 60. And then I came back to my sorcerer and I was like, oh man, how do I play this now? I'm out of practice. So then I had to relearn that. And then, I don't know, then I was just busy this week and I just didn't feel like playing so much. So ironically, I do have like about 150 hours in the game, ish. And, but it's across 2 playthroughs. and both of the save files were basically just research rather than playing for fun. So I don't know. I also started a third save as a samurai to get some information for that. Samurai's hard to play, man. Like if like you want to play that sort of bandit play style where you rely on dodging and stuff, I find that pretty hard. But I don't know. Do you use heavy armor on your character?
Yep,
Like
heavy armor. Yep.
fat rolls?
No,
Do
I'm
you have
not
fat
fat. No,
rolls?
I'm not fat rolling. I'm medium load.
Okay.
My endurance. I have a 50 endurance.
Damn.
So I have like
Beefy.
45. So I have 50 vigor, 50 endurance, and like 85 strength.
I have 16 endurance on my sorcerer, which is worrying me a little bit, frankly. I can only cast a couple of spells before I run out of stamina, which is weird that spells cost stamina, but I don't know. I guess they would.
Justin says, what are your thoughts on the rumor that Turn 10 might be collaborating with From Software on a new game?
Turn 10?
Yeah, I did see this. I don't know if this is connected to Miles Dampier's rumor about the idea of like From Software working on an sci-fi exclusive with Xbox, but I remember seeing this, that Turn 10 might be working with From Software on a game for Xbox.
What?
For Xbox. Like it would be an Xbox exclusive.
That's strange.
But like, I don't know.
I mean,
that'd
be interesting. Could it be like one of their classic IPs like Chromounds or something?
I don't know.
Like mech based?
I don't really believe that rumor, and I don't even think Miles believes that rumor about From Software working on an Xbox game. So
yeah, I wouldn't believe that.
I don't really believe that rumor. It'd be interesting, but I personally don't believe it. Mr. J says, Rand,
maybe they're working on Scalebound.
Yeah, jeez. Rand, do you think we'll see some Indiana Jones updates by the end of the year? Yeah, maybe we see Indiana Jones at E3. Right? They revealed it last year. Maybe we could get like a trailer at E3. That'd be cool, right?
I was told that a lot of the marketing for this year would be Bethesda heavy, so that
makes sense
in with that rumor.
Considering they have two games, well, they got Deathloop coming to Xbox finally. You know, they got Ghostwire Tokyo that's coming out soon on PlayStation. You got Starfield. I would imagine most of the marketing is going to go towards that. You got Redfall. So, yeah, and, you know, Machine Games has been working on Indiana Jones, so maybe it's time to reveal that. What's id Software working on? I mean, there's a lot of projects. You know, what's ZeniMax Online working on? Yeah. There's a lot of games that they could potentially reveal that we might get to see. Let's see. John says, I know it sounds stupid, but do you think there's going to be another AAA game on Game Pass this month? I mean, there's always the possibility. Nobody expected Guardians of the Galaxy to hit Game Pass this early. I mean, it was like 4 months later. So there's always the possibility that Microsoft, you know, has a deal with, you know, a big game. Not necessarily a day one game, but a game that's maybe like 6 months old or something and puts it in Game Pass. Are you a fan of them doing like the 2 monthly updates about Game Pass, Jez, where they give like the update about the games that come out in the next 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks later they give the next update about the rest of the month? Do you like that cadence that they do for that?
I think that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
JC says, what are the chances of Final Fantasy IX Remake being true? Well, it was in that NVIDIA leak, and a lot of the stuff from the NVIDIA leak has come true, so... Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about this, because the Final Fantasy VII Remake, it was cool right up until the end, and I realized that it wasn't actually a remake at all. Like, not to spoil it, you know, not to spoil it or anything. But I wanted a remake, not a spin-off, personally. So I almost feel like don't touch Final Fantasy IX. But because I really, really like Final Fantasy IX, and they kind of screwed with my dreams with Final Fantasy VII. But if it was like a remaster in the vein of the Final Fantasy 3 DS remake. I don't know if you ever played that. You probably didn't, because it's Nintendo DS.
Yeah, no.
But they remade Final Fantasy 3 with like chibi style sort of simple graphics and had the turn-based combat, and it was a Final Fantasy game. You know, I don't want a pseudo action game spin-off if they do that with Final Fantasy 9. I would rather have just remake it exactly as it is. Even if you use static backgrounds and just like redraw them or something. I don't want Final Fantasy 9 as an action game. God no. It makes me feel sick. Don't do it. That's my take on that. Oh well.
I mean, that'd be means they were working on Forspoken, Final Fantasy 16, Final Fantasy Remake Part 2, a Final Fantasy 9 remake. That's a lot of work. So I would love to see it personally. And a lot of games have come true on that leak. So maybe it is true. JetFan says, "Hey, Jez and Rand, any news on old Activision Marvel games going to Game Pass when the deal is finalized, or probably not?" I mean, we don't have any news on that, but I think that would be tied. Was it tied up? That'd be tied up in licensing. Would they do that?
The Activision Marvel games.
Yeah, like Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2 that were delisted from the store.
Ah, right.
They were delisted.
I think
recently. So
I think that'd be on Disney ultimately. It could happen. It could definitely happen. I know for a fact that when Microsoft finally, if they manage to finalize this deal, they will be definitely like examining the back catalog and seeing what value they can get out of it for Game Pass. So those sort of classic games that are sort of vanished right now, even stuff like Guitar Hero, I imagine like some of those games will come back if they can like sort out the licensing aspect, because especially Guitar Hero, there's going to be a complicated licensing proposition with some of those games. But I don't know. We could see. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah. I think it's license related. I think they delisted it for a reason. So, I mean, I guess it's possible they could do a back compat for those games and just not sell them again. Kind of like how like 50 Cent is. I think because 50 Cent is back compat, but you can't buy 50 Cent digitally, right?
Right. So it's just for the disc.
I think
that's so weird.
I think that's how it works.
Did you play that game?
Which game?
The 50 Cent game.
Yes, I actually did. Yes, it was actually a decent game, surprisingly.
Wow.
Simon says, "Who made your new intro song?" Sean Labrie put that all together. I don't know who did the song, but Sean put that all together. Let's see. Rambling Gamer Guy says, "Why do people still say games like Horizon Forbidden West are unique to PlayStation because of their quality when Nintendo and Xbox have had quality games for a year, and Xbox especially last year?" Because this is a talking point to say that my console is better than your console, right? I mean, that's realistically what it is. That only
I don't know, man.
Only Sony can do those specific games, essentially.
I mean, I don't know. I think like when I look at Sea of Thieves and Halo Infinite's open world, even comparing like Halo Infinite to Days Gone, it felt like there was way more polish and stuff in Days Gone's open world than Halo Infinite. Now, is Days Gone's open world more fun? I guess that's up for debate. But I don't know.
I guess the answer to that question was
no.
no.
I don't know, man. I think I actually prefer Days Gone to Halo Infinite.
You even would prefer venereal disease to Halo Infinite. So I mean, like whatever.
I'm sorry, but Halo Infinite had one of the worst stories I've ever seen in a AAA game.
I mean, I'm sure there's been worse stories in a AAA game, Jez.
I don't know. It was pretty bad. It was pretty bad.
And yet, you always tell me that, but yet you completed it in like one sitting because you were so enraptured with the game and you wanted to find out what was going on. So like the idea that like it was one of the worst, if it was one of the worst stories ever, you wouldn't have played it like you did.
It's kind of like, it kind of reminds me of World of Warcraft's writing lately. It kind of leads you on into thinking that there's something big and there's some sort of grand foreshadowing, and then when it gets to the thing that's foreshadowing, it just sort of like, oh, is that it? That's kind of how I felt about World of Warcraft Shadowlands, and it's kind of how I felt about Halo Infinite. But
I just think the idea
know.
of like you saying it's one of the worst ever, but then you telling me you played it for like 10 hours straight, kind of
it left a
says,
sour taste.
okay, sure, I believe you on that.
Life
And
work, man.
you're not playing stuff 10 hours straight. It's Halo. So you must have been because if you're not engaged, you're not going to be playing something for 10 hours straight. No. We also
engaged.
hold on. 1 second here. We also had Halo Infinite. We also had Halo Infinite a month before the review embargo. So don't give me this stuff like I was playing for work. You had a month to play that game, and you, as soon as you got it, you literally beat it. Don't give me this whole, oh, well, it was one of the worst stories when you could not stop playing the game.
Dude, the story was bad. I'm sorry. The game was fun. You know, it was fun. It was fun throwing crates around, blowing things up, you know, finding unique weapons in the world. But, oh boy, the story, some of the twists and turns. Although, I will say that some of the characters were really good. I can't remember his name now, but the main villain I really liked. He had like, what was his name? Not Atriox guy? I can't remember his name. Do you know what I'm talking about? The banished Caesar. What was his name?
I forgot his name, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I thought he was great, and I thought his motivation was really interesting, and like he wasn't a typical villain like I'm evil for the sake of evil. Like he seemed to have a genuine camaraderie with his troops and didn't just send them to their deaths like cannon fodder. So some of the characterization was really good, but some of the plot direction was just horrible, like really bad. And
sure, I'm not a fan of how things presented themselves towards the end either. But also, if something's bad and you're not liking it, you're not going to keep on playing it for 10 hours. Like, if I'm reading a book and the book is bad, I'm not going to also say, well, I read the book for 10 hours straight, but it was horrible. It's like, it's horrible. Like, you'd stop playing it. Like, if the game's, I don't know. Like,
someone, I can't remember where I read this. I think, was it Jeff Grubb tweeting it or something? I can't remember where I saw this, but someone tweeted something that he'd rather play a bad game than a boring game.
Sure. Well,
you know,
yes, a boring game is.
So it was something like that. So like, yeah, like Far Cry 6, that story was so boring that I didn't want to review games anymore. It actually made me consider just never reviewing a game again, because forcing myself through that story was just horrible. So yeah, like maybe calling it bad is the wrong thing to say, because I did care about the characters, and I was engaged through the whole game, which is more than I can say for any Ubisoft game of the last 10 years.
And you beat it in like one sitting, so it says you were really engaged.
Yeah, I was engaged, but I was really annoyed with some of the writing decisions.
Sure, and I was annoyed with some of the writing decisions as well. 100%. I agree with you there.
Still am.
Yes.
Like Final Fantasy VII, like Final Fantasy VII Remake, I was really engaged. I played that non-stop as well. And then at the end, I was like, please, you guys did not just do that to my Final Fantasy VII.
Are you really going to be engaged with the bad game? Like, you may disagree with some of the storytellings that ended up being, but like, if it's a bad game, you're not going to be that engaged. Like, you're not going to be playing a bad game from start to completion for 10 hours. Like you'll do that over time. In a boring game, you just won't come back to. So
yeah, boring games.
I can't let Halo's got its problems. 343's out there taking the brunt of it with like the live service stuff, which seems to be letting the game down completely and whatever. But I'm not gonna let this slide, Jez. I'm not gonna let this slide because we had the game a month early. And I was like, well, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait to play it. And you were like, I'm playing it right now. And then 10 hours later, like, I couldn't stop playing it. It's so good. Oh, my God. And then you're like, oh, man, I didn't like how some of the stuff ended. So, like, the idea, I'm not going to let you get away with that.
Yeah, the gameplay was good. I'm not saying the gameplay was bad. It wasn't. Like, I really love throwing crates around. I like the boss battles. I mean, they weren't as, the stakes weren't as high as like Elden Ring or something, but they didn't need to be because it's Halo, I guess. But man, the last act of the story really left a sour taste. I don't know.
Darren says, "Am I missing something, or is nothing releasing this summer from anyone?" Yeah, right now there's not
That's
a lot
an
of games
interesting
coming out in
point.
the summer. So I mean, but then again, usually a lot of stuff comes out in summer, anyways, right? So
That's true.
I mean, you know what would suck if you were like an indie game and you decided to release in February against like Elden Ring and Horizon, you probably didn't get a lot of coverage. At least Sifu had come out like before those games.
You mean like Martha is dead?
Yeah, like Martha is dead.
Martha is
That
very
game came
dead.
out, right? Yeah, nobody talked about it. People were like, "Oh, we got censored," but then it came, but then nobody cared. Oh yeah,
We went
so
up against Elden Ring. That's why.
Jeffin says Grand Theft Auto 5's $20 on Xbox, but $10 on PlayStation 5. What is up with that? What do you think, Jez? Because I actually did have. So the price difference on GTA 5 for next gen, $20 on the Series X, and $10 on the PS5. Why is there the price difference?
That is weird. Well, first of all, 2K sets the price, so it's them who's doing it.
Well, there is.
Second of all,
So I'll give you some context. So they made that deal with, Sony made that deal with them where PlayStation Plus users for the first 3 months get to claim Grand Theft Auto Online for free, I believe. And Grand Theft Auto Online is $10. So I think because it's free on PlayStation, that's why there's a $10 difference. Like it's $20 on Xbox because it's the story and the online, but on PlayStation it's $10 because it's just the story because the online's free. That's at least the way I kind of view it.
yeah, that's probably it. But like, I suppose it kind of sucks if they're not communicating that, because a lot of people are going to be like, "Yeah, what the hell?" And also, a lot of people are going to be like, "I don't care about the online," because there does seem to be a genuine split between people who are interested in the online and people who ain't. I know I'm not interested in GTA Online, so yeah, it'd be nice if there was the ability to, I don't know, opt out of having online maybe on Xbox. They certainly have that capability, but it's on 2K basically. They're the ones who decided this, so they're the ones you should be mad about.
I wonder because I saw that price. This was a game I originally thought was going to be $60. The fact that it's 20 is like, man, okay, you know, it's like I haven't played Grand Theft Auto 5 campaign since 2013. Maybe I'll buy this, play it in 60 frames. But then the game comes out in like 4 days, I think. Or the game comes out next week and we've seen no footage. And that worries me because we saw no footage of the Grand Theft Auto trilogy. And we know how bad that port was. So are they hiding this port because it's just not doing anything special? And that's the reason why they haven't shown it, and the reason why it's only $20 or $10, depending on your platform? Like, does that worry you a little bit based on previous history?
Well, it doesn't worry me because I ain't interested.
Well, you're not interested in it, but I mean, like, I don't know.
I wouldn't, after the GTA trilogy remaster, I wouldn't give Take-Two a shred of your trust, to be honest. They're kind of descending into EA levels of don't trust this publisher for me. So I don't know.
Yeah, John says, Jez, hey,
we'll find out very soon.
What do you expect from Roundhouse Studios this generation?
Roundhouse Studios. Now they were the ones who made the original Prey, right? And oh wait, am I getting them mixed up? Roundhouse Studios. Let me just
think they're the ones from Human Head who were doing Prey 2 and then
that is a really strange situation. So Bethesda announces Roundhouse Studios, a new studio staffed by ex-Human Head Studios developers. Man, that's a really terrible title. So this is their comment. Sadly, we had to wind down the business of Human Head Studios and close its doors, which was particularly devastating due to the passion and creativity of the team. Reached out to our friends at Bethesda for help, and they saw the same creativity and passion in our team. And with the formation of Roundhouse Studios, Bethesda offered every employee at Human Head a position at the new company. That's strange. Like you don't see that kind of thing happen often, right? Now, as for what they're making, I have absolutely no idea. So this studio, obviously, they're working on Prey 2, sequel to the original Prey, which was not the Prey that Arcane made, which was a different Prey in a different universe, but just had the same branding. Pretty confusing, really, when you think about it. Maybe they're working on Prey. I don't know. But I would suspect they'll be working on a game in the vein of Prey, because that is I suppose, their expertise or something. But honestly, I have no idea. I mean, do you have any thoughts on that, Rand? I have no
I have no
idea.
idea. I mean, there's rumors that one of their studios is making like some comic book multiplayer thing that I keep on seeing brought up or something, but I have no idea what
Oh
they're
yeah, like
doing.
superhero multiplayer game.
Yeah, I
Yes.
have no clue. Hopefully, maybe we see what they're doing this year. Maybe. I mean, like I said, Bethesda's
Yeah,
got some
maybe.
projects they're working on that maybe it's time, or maybe not. Maybe they want to devote everything to Starfield. You know, that's going to be the big
Yeah.
game, but guess we'll wait and see. Cartoon Nerd says, any chance Microsoft takes people from Bethesda, Obsidian, and InXile makes a Fallout specific studio? Maybe call it Vault.
Oh, that'd be a cool name for studio. I think they probably should look at making a dedicated Fallout studio. I mean, it's kind of wild that they don't have one really, and there's no like. I mean, that Todd Howard did respond to some of these concerns and said they do have plans for the future of Fallout and whatever. But I think like having a dedicated studio to Fallout should be something they should consider, because Fallout's a massive franchise. It's right up there with like Elder Scrolls for recognizability, and while it hasn't sold as many copies as Skyrim, it's still a pretty massive franchise. And for a time, Fallout Shelter was their most profitable game ever, I think, or at least like in terms of raw, profit margins. So I do think they need to consider a Fallout dedicated studio, but would they? I don't think they'd forcibly shuffle developers around to make that studio. They'd probably offer people the opportunity if they were going to do something like that, but I don't know. There's no indication that they are doing something like that. But as per Jeff Grubb's rumor, Obsidian might be making the next Fallout game anyway, as a sort of a new Fallout game in the vein of New Vegas 1. Maybe that's their next project after the Outer Worlds 2. Could certainly see that happening. Because obviously, Avowed will be wrapping up maybe by the end of this year or early next year. And they're developing the Outer Worlds at the same time. So, like, I've actually seen Outer Worlds 2 gameplay, very, very early gameplay. But they're working on it, and it functions, and they've got maps designed and they've got concept art and stuff like that. So they're developing these games at the same time, side by side. Obviously, a smaller team on Outer Worlds 2 while they finish Avowed, and then that team will switch over to Outer Worlds 2, and then probably after that, maybe they'll look at doing Fallout. And I suspect if Obsidian ends up making like a really great Fallout game, maybe they could just end up becoming the Fallout studio by default. Everyone regards New Vegas as the best 3D Fallout game anyway. So for my money, Obsidian's probably the right studio to carry that ahead. If Todd Howard with Todd Howard overseeing or producing or at least looking in every now and then. I don't know. But that's the beauty of Creation Engine. It's a highly versatile platform, and presumably they've got experience working on it still within the team. So I don't know. I just want more Fallout, basically.
Yeah, you and a lot of people.
I'm right there with you guys.
Dub says, any new rumors or info on Redfall? No, I know some of the screens leaked again from the leak from last year, but nothing really new. So
nothing new.
Kay Asante says, what do you guys think of the state of play? I didn't watch it, and I don't think Jez did either. For those things, I always just kind of watch the trailers afterwards or look at like a roundup. And it definitely, I watched like the Ghostwire Tokyo trailer, and I watched the Turtles thing, and I watched the Returnal thing. But for the most part, I watched the Dino Crisis. I mean, wasn't Dino Crisis? What's the name of the Capcom game? with the dinosaurs, but it's not. It's not a new Dino Crisis. I think Capcom's trolling people at this point. They have to be, right?
Yeah, I think they're trolling. I don't know what it's called either. I can't remember off the top of my head. That kind of weird name, like Exo something or
Something
other,
like that.
something like
Yeah.
that.
It's funny. I was talking.
What do you think of that?
I think Capcom's trolling people that want Dino Crisis. But then I was talking to
Hmm.
my buddy Gopher last night, and he's like, Dino Crisis didn't sell or wasn't that big, and it's like, if you really want Dino Crisis, just download a mod for Resident Evil 2 or 3 and have the zombies be dinosaurs, and there you go, it's Dino Crisis. Which I'm like, okay,
You
well,
do
yeah,
that?
because Dino Crisis was basically Resident Evil just with dinosaurs. I'm like, but people want it, and it's just like, here's some dinosaurs, and it's like, oh, but sorry, it's not Dino Crisis. It's like, all right. Um, Devil wants to know if any chance Lost Ark is going to release on console.
That's an interesting question. I would say probably, but it's probably also not guaranteed 100%. Um, like League of Legends never released on console. Like for whatever reason, they decided console's not necessary. And honestly, it's one of the biggest games in the world without having ever come to console. So maybe they're just like, we don't need console, and Lost Ark hit 20 million players without console, which is another reason why I think Sony's going to end up supporting PC so much, because it's become the de facto platform for a lot of people, and it's become more accessible in an era where chips are hard to get. So I want to believe that yes, it would come, because I'm someone who would like to try it out, but I also don't really fancy installing it on my PC, even though my PC is more than capable. Um, but who knows? Nobody knows. New World didn't come to console, did it? Xbox New World? I don't
No,
think so.
no,
So
and that's kind of
yeah,
dead
so
on PC, isn't it? New World had that huge
yeah, New
launch and
World is.
then kind of just died off.
Yeah, it's really funny because like everyone was like, "Oh, this is the WoW killer. This is the WoW killer," and it's sort of I knew Rand from like I downloaded New World, and I knew from the first 2 minutes that game was going to be dead in 3 months. And lo and behold, it's dead. Because I just know what the MMO market needs to be, and it ain't New World. And New World is just not a good game. But Lost Ark, by all accounts, is a pretty good game. And but at the same time, it's like, will it come to console? Does it need to come to console? I guess Amazon might just decide, nah, it doesn't need to. But it'd be an interesting experiment for them because they're pretty new to this whole thing. There was an interview with the games publisher of Amazon, published on a site. I can't remember which site it was now. Might be Game Industry or something like that. Where the guy was like, "Yeah, we made loads of mistakes with New World, and we learned from those mistakes and applied that to Lost Ark." And I'm just sitting there thinking, did you though, or did you just like end up publishing a game that was already high quality? Because they didn't actually make Lost Ark. It was made by the Crossfire X's RPG team. What are they called? Smilegate RPG or whatever. So it wasn't actually made by Amazon. It was just published and localized by Amazon, from what I understand. But I don't know.
Hmm.
I hope it comes to console, just because I want to give it a go.
Yeah, that'd be something you would play. I definitely wouldn't. Bear wants to know. I have a question. Why is Tunic now not in Game Pass, but when they announced it at E3, it was in Game Pass? I don't recall it ever being announced for Game Pass. It's kind of like
Oh,
Death's Door. Death's Door was
hmm.
announced, and people thought it was coming to Game Pass, but they said it wouldn't be there at launch. And I think people have thought the same about Tunic. I don't know. Like, I just did a search for it on Google, and I don't see any announcement that said Tunic was coming to Game Pass originally. Do you remember any of this, Jez?
Yeah, I don't think it was announced for Game Pass, but maybe it was just like, this is one of the confusing things about Game Pass. Sometimes it's just like, um I don't know, some games just look like they should be on Game Pass. I think Xbox is sort of built itself up in a way that it's like, you know, kind of makes you expect that certain types of indie games will come to Game Pass. And I guess this is just not the case for Tunic, but maybe there is a future where Tunic hits Game Pass. I think it could be similar thing to Death's Door. They look at how it performs outside of Game Pass, and then maybe they're just like, yeah, let's stick in Game Pass now and see how well it does. Um, especially because I think Tunic could be a great game for Xcloud because it's got a fixed camera perspective, it's family friendly, and fixed camera perspective games work really well with Xcloud's algorithm. So I do think it will come to Game Pass. It's just not announced for it right now, and I guess we'll just have to wait.
Yeah. Skate wants to know if Starfield will beat Elden Ring for Game of the Year. I'm gonna say no. And
No.
Jez doesn't. Jez is really looking forward to Starfield, and he wants it to. But if I'm thinking about what's gonna win the Keeleys and who the journalists are gonna vote for, I'm gonna say no. It's not. Elden Ring will definitely be ahead of Starfield if I had to guess.
I think there's a vague sort of chance that possibly Starfield has some killer feature they haven't even teased or announced yet. Like I think I said last week on the podcast, like, what if you could make your own spaceships? What if you could, what if there's like a soft multiplayer aspect to the game? We don't know what Starfield has. What Starfield's killer feature? We don't know yet. So there's a chance that they could have some kind of magic that we don't know about. But there could also be the opposite, that it's just Skyrim in space, which I think is probably the more likely proposition. But again, just go wait and see.
Yeah, let me see what else we got here. Everyone's idle Goro says Redfall still officially launching this summer. I mean, indeed, it's still launching this summer. I mean, they haven't delayed it yet. Maybe they not. Maybe it won't. Maybe it is coming out in summer. We'll just have to wait and see. Probably find out in June around Xbox's E3. Sean says Discovery executives are now approving the deal, and the deal is close to closing. Is there any chance Xbox goes in to buy all of WB Game Studios or Warner if Halo show and Gears movie are good? What do you think, Jez? I think the shareholders approved it today, and it's going to go through. What are the chances Microsoft comes in and buys the whole thing eventually after the Activision stuff? Or would that be too much of just a monopoly concern, type thing?
I have no idea.
Well,
I don't know if
you don't think the
stuff.
Activision deal is going through, do you?
I think there's a good chance it won't. Obviously, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know for sure. But I think it's going to be a huge challenge. Like, there's a huge amount of risk involved. There's a huge amount of issues to overcome, and also there's a huge political angle that is overlooked. There could be a lot of, I don't know, politicians out there looking to make their name and make a statement by blocking the deal. It's messy. I think it could go either way personally, but again, not a lawyer, just being a bit pessimistic. But I guess
you really want Blizzard. You want it so bad.
I do. I think Blizzard would be really good for Xbox.
So
at the same time, I think it's going to be complicated to get there.
Hero DM'd me. He wants me to check my DMs, and he says, "This is what I tried to super chat. Didn't go through. Hope you have a great weekend." And he says the manager sees a blind man and his dog walk into a store. The blind man picks the dog up and spins it around in the air. The manager sees this and asks the blind man, "Need any help?" And the blind man responds, "No, I was just looking around." What do you think, Jez?
I think that's a great jape. Do you know any good jokes, Rand?
Not really any off the top of my head, no. Do you?
I know a joke. I know a joke about a prawn.
I finally found the place in
long.
in your Twitter profile header with the shrimp. or the prawn or whatever the hell it is. And the guy's sitting in
Oh
front of.
yeah, yeah. It's funny because it's a weird joke in the game because the shack is called Boiled Prawn Shack,
Mm-hmm.
but they're
Yeah.
not prawns. They're crayfish. And like if you click on the item boiled prawn in Elden Ring, it says, interestingly, this is not a prawn, it's a crayfish. It's like, what the hell? What the hell kind of joke is that? What does it mean? What does it mean? I'm confused. But
Mm.
I don't know.
Gunstar wants to know, hey, question for Jez. How does Manscaped cope with ginger pubes? And if you make
Oh
sure to
wow.
use code XB2 in the checkout to get 20% off and free shipping on anything
Yeah.
from manscaped.com. So,
Does I'm pretty sure it does work on ginger pubes. I can't speak from experience on that, but the only way to find out is to test them with our code XB2. You can get 20% off.
yeah, right?
Oh man.
Brad says, do you think Xbox should bring back games where you use your Xbox avatar? I feel like avatars are useless at the moment.
Ooh, avatars.
Yeah.
Interesting. They're kind of dead, aren't they? To be honest. I don't think there's a future where I don't think there's a future, honestly, where avatars are a thing again, really. I think like avatars as a feature, probably Microsoft's kind of like, man, we waste a huge amount of money on this. This was probably a bad call. And now they're not going to do anything with them. That's my take on that. Could be wrong. I could be wrong. They could have plans for it and stuff. You know, we are like all over the metaverse and stuff at the moment. But honestly, don't think that avatars have a future. I think they're just basically dead now. But I don't know for sure.
Game Plato says, Jez, have you noticed that the DVR video uploads are completely broken now? Pre-alpha insider here. It's impossible to upload. The screen goes black. Well,
Oh, really?
it's completely removed in the alpha ring. He's saying that it's completely broken in he says pre-alpha insider. So I don't know if that means normal build.
No, the skip ahead build. What that the DVR is completely broken in skip ahead?
Video uploads. So like uploading to Twitter or whatever, or I don't know.
Okay. So maybe they've sort of like, I don't know, turned them off because they are working on a major update, and that's why I couldn't get any information on it, because it is going to be a bigger thing. Again, that could be speculation. I have no idea personally, but I don't know. That could actually be a positive sign that there's bigger changes coming. So I guess we just need to wait now, find out.
Yeah. Yeah, for anybody who I get a lot of messages for people saying they super chatted but it wasn't working and they were charged. I don't see that on my end, so I don't know what's going on. So if anybody has that ran into that issue, like I apologize, but I don't.
You need to get in touch with Google.
Yeah, people were saying they tried a few times and it flipped out, and someone's saying like a charge and it went through, but like I do not see it here on my end. So if anybody did do a message to support the channel, I wish I could read it. It's just that I don't see it here. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Maybe like it just doesn't. I don't know. You know, it's YouTube. Sometimes something's always broken, but I apologize for that. The whole Avatar thing, Jez. I don't know. I was never really a fan. It did seem like a moneymaker, and then with the new dashboard, it kind of like avatars became less of a focal point, and they just kind of became hidden, and it just seemed like people stopped caring. And well, Connect died, so you weren't really using your avatars for anything for any of the Connect games and stuff. So they just seemed to die off. And maybe they could do something for like a 1v100 or 1 versus 100 or a quiz game show, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really miss them, so
Yeah, I don't care about it much.
yeah. Ermi says, Jez, has there been any more games added to the keyboard and mouse list for the Xbox since the last time I asked you this about 6 months ago? Is Xbox lazy on this end? That would be all you, because I don't keep track of keyboard and mouse stuff on Xbox.
If they had added any, I'm not aware of them. I mean, it is probably true that they aren't really pushing that very hard, and but that could change when they bring Xcloud support to mouse and keyboard. And I think that's probably where they're gonna go with this. They're probably thinking like, what we'll do is we'll add mouse and keyboard for Xcloud, and then devs who want to bring their PC games to Xcloud, they'll have to add like, mouse and keyboard controls anyway. That's probably the mentality there. But again, speculation, could be wrong. No way to find out for sure. But I haven't heard of any more games with mouse and keyboard support. Although I did try playing Call of Duty with mouse and keyboard on Xbox recently, Rand. And it is hilarious how easy it is when you've got a mouse and keyboard in Call of Duty when you play it on console. I mean, it's just, I don't know why Microsoft thinks it's okay to mix the inputs and stuff, but at least in Call of Duty you can turn it off. You can't in Halo. Oh well.
Stone Patrol says, dude, Jez woke up on the wrong side of the bed today, hating on Halo harder than normal, now thinking the Activision deal isn't going through. Lol. Jez, snap out of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's true, actually. I'm not in the greatest of moods right now, so I'm probably being more pessimistic than usual, and I apologize if it's annoying anyone.
Make sure you send Jez messages about how much you love him and how much you appreciate him.
Oh, isn't Rand a lovely chap?
Ermi wants to know our thoughts on WWE 2K22. They took some time off. Took some years to retool, and rumors are WWE may be looking at EA now. I haven't played any of the WWE games in a long time, so yeah, even if they went to EA, I don't think it would matter to me. I don't think I would care. There would, if you'd have said this years ago, I probably would have, but or if this would have happened years ago, I would probably have cared, but yeah, it doesn't. They kind of are like regular sports releases to me. I just can't be bothered. I just don't care anymore. Damien says, am I the only one unable to afford Elden Ring at the moment? I hear so many good things, but real life sucks sometimes. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about video games. It's a very expensive hobby, and a lot of it for a lot of people is like they want to be able to join in on the discussion right away when everybody's talking about it. But yeah, not everybody can afford everything right away, which is, and that's the one thing that kind of sucks about video games is that they're so expensive. They're $70, which some people will be like, well, $70 isn't much, and it's like, yeah, it is. I mean, I guess depending on, it may not be much for you, but for a lot of other people, especially now with have you seen gas prices now? Like, holy cow, it's getting insane with gas prices here. So
yeah, it's funny because a lot of European countries like Denmark and Germany and stuff, they've been laughing about Americans complaining about the gas prices because that's been Europe for the last 5 years. Some of the comparative gas prices, but I'll just say that I'm really, really privileged that I don't have to actually leave the house ever for any reason. But it does suck if But that's why Game Pass is cool, because it gives people the opportunity to get access to some of these games at a much more affordable cadence, I guess. But I don't know.
Yeah. Ocean says he's betting on InXile being the Fallout team instead of Obsidian. That's potential. Maybe. I mean, there's rumors.
Yeah, wasn't there a rumor about that?
Yeah, there's a rumor, but who knows? Yash wants to know if you've heard anything about Coalition's new game. I don't think you have, right? Other than they're making, they have a new project, but you don't know anything about it, right?
Yeah, I don't know anything about it, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Matthew wants to know, what do you think about Gotham Knights and Hogwarts Legacy and Destroy All Humans 2 remake? Do you think they're gonna be any good to pre-order? What games do you think I should pre-order? Well, I wouldn't pre-order any of those games right now. I never pre-order any games until like literally like the day before. Um, I don't know. We don't even know how Hogwarts Legacy is going to even play. Is it going to be any good? Same thing with like Gotham Knight or Destroy All Human 2. So it's tough to say like you should pre-order those now. Gotham Knight did get a release date. It's coming out October 25th, which is great. But yeah, I wouldn't consider pre-ordering them now. That's way too early. Just have to wait to see how quality the release is and if it's worth $60 or $70 to you. Yeah. Anyways, I think we hit that point where it's the end of the show. Thank you guys for all the questions. Sorry for anybody who supported the show with Super Chat and got charged. I don't know if it was wonky or if the whole system's down, but I definitely don't see it on my end at all. So I apologize for that. We'll be back next week, hopefully on Friday, with another episode of Xbox 2. With, maybe Microsoft decides to break their silence. I don't know. Give us something actually interesting to talk about. No more Elden Ring talk since I'll be done with the game. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to play next. I got to think of something to play. So, with that said, hope you guys have a great rest of the weekend. And keep it gaming, guys. Later.
Later.